Square Media Station. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
Thursday afternoon, Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. And of course, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. We are counting down to Memorial Day weekend. But before we get to Memorial Day weekend, we got a lot to get to today on 97.3 ESPN. By the way, congratulations to Ryan and Steve yesterday. They won a pair of tickets to go see Shane Gillis in what was his comedy show at Ocean Casino Resort. And today, another opportunity for you to win. You just got to join the conversation at 609-403-0973. Phillies win yesterday. What does it mean? We'll talk with Bob Wankel about it from Crossroad coming up in about 25 minutes from now. We ran that poll yesterday. Nick Nurse, what should the Sixers do? Well, Keith Pompey of the Philadelphia Inquirer wrote an article that was very much in line with our listeners. I'll give you the poll results from yesterday's conversation. Should Nick Nurse be the next Sixers head coach? Football at 4. Andrew DeCecco from the Inside the Birds podcast and InsideTheBirds.com. We will ask him about DeAndre Hopkins' comments about Jalen Hurts. Because what is it with all of these guys who don't play for the Eagles or are all in on Jalen Hurts? It's like the oddest thing in the world to me. Not that I don't believe in Jalen Hurts. I just think that the overall perception is a little odd. Finally, later in the show, Celtics Heat tonight. What do we take heading into the game tonight? By the way, coverage of that game begins on ESPN Radio at 8 p.m. NBA Insider with Valley Sports, Brendan Scoopy Robinson will join us. Talk about the Sixers head coaching search, the NBA playoff, and Kyrie's future. All that and more still to come on Sports Bash. Like I said, you can win tickets to go see Shane Gillis' comedy show at Ocean Casino Resort when you join the conversation at 609-403-0973. That is a text board. Don't forget, you can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Before we get to the Phillies, I got to start with the Eagles because we talked about this in passing yesterday with Jeff Mosher on Football at 4. I wanted to bring it back up today because a lot of times when we talk about quarterbacks, the national news has been salivating over Aaron Rodgers in New York. It's like the greatest thing that ever happened to them. Right? Rodgers is on the Jets. We have pictures of him in number 8 in that dark green uniform. Great, whatever. Patrick Mahomes saying it's not about the money. I just want to win. Lamar Jackson now at Ravens OTAs. But Jalen Hurts is kind of taking a backseat to a lot of these guys because he doesn't have the flair. He doesn't have the all eyes on me attitude. By the way, if you know the song I'm referencing, you might get an extra entry for the contest there for the Shane Gillis. If you know what song I just referenced, you might get an extra entry you will get an extra entry for the Shane Gillis comedy show contest for the tickets today. But back to the Jalen Hurts point. Hurts is not an all eyes on me guy. He is an individual who is all about doing business, getting things done. So when DeAndre Hopkins went on the I Am Athlete podcast and gave his top 5 quarterbacks he would love to have the ball thrown to him, he was asked about Dak Prescott, and he said, Nah. And he gave an honorable mention to C.J. Stroud, who just got drafted by the Houston Texans. But his 5 quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, not on that list. Joe Burrow, not on that list. He didn't mention his quarterback, Kyler Murray. Maybe that's because the idea is he's already been throwing him the ball. Not sure. I'm not going to read too deeply into it. But no, his list was Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. Now, for context, he wasn't ranking them that way. Those are just the 5 he came up with off the top of his head. But still, in DeAndre Hopkins' mind, Jalen Hurts is a top 5 thrower in the NFL. He said about Josh Allen that he loves Josh Allen, that he loves watching him play. I thought was interesting that he is so tuned in to a guy like Allen. Called him a new school Andrew Luck, which is not good for Bills fans because Andrew Luck's career was shortened because he took too many hits. But he mentioned Jalen Hurts. And he basically said that he thinks very highly of Hurts. Mentioned the fact that he's a Houston kid. So he was very well aware of him his whole career because he used to play in Houston. And then he mentioned Patrick Mahomes, because everyone mentions Patrick Mahomes. He's the best quarterback in the NFL. How can you not mention Patrick Mahomes? He mentioned Lamar. Didn't really give like an explanation about Lamar. It was more like yeah, of course, Lamar. Yep. But then he said he thought for about, and I would play the audio, but there's like so much downtime in the audio. It's like 50 seconds between him deciding who his 5th quarterback is. And it's like you're willing to fall asleep to it. So I think DeAndre needs to go to that media camp thing that the NFL Network has if he ever wants to get in the media, because in our business, having nothing to say for 50 seconds is not a good thing. But he finally came up with that guy who plays for the Chargers, Justin Herbert. So that's who his 5 quarterbacks are: Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. Not in that order, but that's his 5. So it got me to thinking. No Joe Burrow on that list. No Aaron Rodgers on that list. And he definitely said no to Dak Prescott. Is Jalen Hurts a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? Not asking you if he's number 1. I'm not asking you if he is the best. I'm asking you, is Jalen Hurts a top 5 quarterback? Because being an MVP candidate is not an automatic prerequisite for if you're one of the best. Look at all this conversation we're having about Joel Embiid. I mean, I got some people texting in the show saying they need to trade Embiid yesterday. I see some people online saying they got to get rid of Embiid. But Embiid's the MVP. Daryl Morey says, we're going to build around the MVP. That's what Morey said. We want to build around the MVP. But some people say, I don't care if he's MVP. Some people say Embiid is not as good as Jokic. Right? So being a MVP candidate, like Embiid has been for the last couple of years, and then winning it this year, has not elevated him at all. (609-403-0973). Also, we'll have the poll question up in just a bit at 973 ESPN on Twitter. Because when you break down the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, now if you asked me who my 5 are, I think most people would agree that Patrick Mahomes is the number 1 QB in the NFL, and there's no question about it. 2 through 5 is up for debate. If you told me Josh Allen's a top 5 quarterback, not arguing it. If you told me Justin Herbert's top 5 quarterback, I'm waffling. Because I think Joe Burrow has done more with his team than Herbert has with his team. Now, I don't think Herbert is a bad quarterback. Not at all. I just think that he's on a team with a coach who's an idiot, who doesn't know how to put his quarterback in a position to be successful. When I look at the best quarterbacks in the NFL, I factor in a couple things. One, are you not turning the ball over? It's a bit of a negative against Josh Allen. He does turn the ball over a little too much for my taste. Are you a player that other players want to play with? Well, that definitely fits Mahomes. That fits Hurts. And for whatever it's worth, it kind of fits Lamar. But really, is Lamar better than Aaron Rodgers and Joe Burrow? I don't know if I can put him ahead of Burrow. I mean, you could make an argument that the list is, if you ordered them, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen. Like, those are the three right there. Then who are the final two spots? You're arguing between Hurts, Lamar, Herbert, and Rodgers. And if you look at last year, Rodgers took a huge step down. But did he take a step down because he had less talent around him? Or because he's getting older? Same thing with Lamar. Is Lamar still a top 5 quarterback? Or did he not have enough talent around him last year? Justin Herbert hasn't made a deep playoff run. Do we hold that against him, or do we hold that against the Chargers? And then you have Jalen Hurts, MVP runner-up, but he only did it for 1 year. The negative against Hurts, because he has everything in his corner, his work ethic, his mentality, the players believe in him, they follow him to the very end, the organization is 100% invested in him and his success. Other players around the league want to play with this guy, not just DeAndre Hopkins. Who, the Baker thinks well of Jalen Hurts? He plays defense, for goodness sake. Everyone thinks well of Jalen Hurts in the league. But if you are the person who says, I can't make him top 5 because he only did it for 1 year, I need to see him do it for one more year, because we all agree that Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the NFC, but is he the best quarterback in the NFL? He's not the best quarterback in the NFL. You could argue the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL are the trio of Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow. But Hurts is right there in the conversation. Statistically, doesn't put the numbers those guys do. But he doesn't turn the ball over. Players believe in him. But is that enough? Is it enough to be the guy that other people believe in? I don't know. I don't know if that's enough for some people, because when you look at a guy, and it's a catch-22, I'm in a different camp than the average person is. I've believed in Hurts since he was drafted. I love the draft pick. I supported the pick. I thought Hurts could be a really good quarterback in the NFL, and that people were completely misreading his college career. Now, I said the same thing about Russell Wilson. I also said the same thing about Josh Rosen. So you can't win them all, right? But maybe I don't see Jalen Hurts the way I should. Maybe I have a bias in Jalen Hurts' quarter. Maybe I look at Jalen Hurts and I am rating him too highly. Maybe I'm looking at DeAndre Hopkins and what he said about Jalen as affirmation for what I already believe, instead of looking at it objectively and say, you know what, DeAndre maybe his view of quarterbacks isn't great. He played with Deshaun Watson. Look what happened with Watson, right? So maybe my view's wrong. That's why I'm asking what you guys think. 609-403-0973. That's a text board. You also could DM the show through the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. By the way, guys, don't forget to leave your name if you want to qualify for the contest. Shout out to Ernie and Brigantine. Tupac, All Eyes on Me. That's the song I was referencing about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is not an all eyes on me guy. Ernie's got it. Good job by Ernie. Ernie gets an extra entry for the Shane Gillis comedy show tickets at Ocean Casino Resort. Remember, you only can qualify for the contest if you leave your name when you text into the show at 609-403-0973. Jeff in Ocean City chimes in and says, Jalen Hurts should be a solid quarterback in this league for many years to come. He already might be the top quarterback in the NFC. Well, he's already the top quarterback in the NFC. I'm not denying that. Saying he's a solid quarterback for many years to come doesn't sound like you're saying he's a great quarterback. Top 5 quarterbacks are great quarterbacks. Like in the past, a top 5 quarterback was Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady. We never referred to Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers as a solid quarterback. Did you ever look at Dan Marino and John Elway and say, they're a solid quarterback? It's like the James Harden answer about Doc Rivers. How's your relationship? It's okay. You don't say a guy's a solid quarterback and then be in the top 5. So it sounds like you're not really confident he's a top 5 quarterback there. Anonymous chimes in on the message board, says, sure, top 5 on a super team that couldn't win the Super Bowl. Eagles have their top 5 MVP quarterback, but nothing to show for it. Well, a couple things there. One, under that premise, Dan Marino's a bum because he never won a championship. Because under your premise, he has nothing to show for it. Elway, before he won those 2 rings with a super team around him, had nothing to show for his championship losses. Peyton Manning was basically carried by a defense at the end of his career. Do we delegitimize that championship? I mean, where do we draw the line? What does it mean to have nothing to show for it? You say top 5 quarterback in a super team that couldn't win the championship. They lost the Super Bowl to the best quarterback in the league and a future Hall of Fame head coach. So what does that mean? Does it mean that Hurts and the Eagles are a bunch of losers? That he's a bum? I mean, I don't think so. Like I said, maybe I'm looking at it wrong. And by the way, nothing to show for it also means that you don't value competing for championships. You have to compete for a championship in order to have a chance to win it. Another text coming in at 609-403-0973 says Jalen Hurts had a top 5 type season last year. Let's see how he follows it up this year before we anoint him with greatness. Now, that is a very well articulated text. Texter, I hope you send in your name because you didn't leave your name, so I can't give you the proper credit. That's a great way to articulate it. He had a top 5 season, but he needs to follow it up this year before we anoint him anything. And on that great point, you can go to on Twitter at 973 ESPN the vote in the poll. Coming up next, we'll take a break from the Eagles and go to the Phillies. Huge win yesterday. Trey Turner game-tying home run. Alec Boehm game-winning hit in extra innings. Doesn't even mean anything then. Does it mean that the Phillies are back on track? Well, that's Crossing Broad's Phillies reporter Bob Wankel next here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on a Thursday afternoon on 97.3 ESPN.
There's only one place for live sports and sports talk in South Jersey. Oh, yeah! Your sports station is 97.3 ESPN.
It's almost summer. The beach, baseball games, theme parks, and rising prices and interest rates. Wait, that's not part of this ad. Interest rates are still rising. Most auto prices are over MSRP, and large trucks and SUV trade values are rapidly declining. You've probably missed out on record trade allowances, but not at Matt Flat Mitsubishi. We want your trade, no matter the make, condition, or what you owe. Then drive home in your brand new 2023 Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross or Outlander SUV with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty with 2.9% financing and 0 down payment. Plus, Matt Flat Mitsubishi's 4-day love it or leave it return policy. You simply can't make a mistake or take $9,000 off MSRP with a PHEV lease on every unit in stock. Simply Matt Flat Mitsubishi. Offers approved with Tier 1 credit through Ally Financial. Go to mattflatmitsubishi.com for complete details. Plus tax, license, registration fees. MSRP $47,400 less $1,500 rebate, $6,800 tax credit. Dealer discount of $1,273. Offers can't be combined. Expires 6/5/22. So come in today and get your deal your way. Located right in the heart of Glassboro for over 30 years.
At Lowe's, we're always bringing pros more ways to save. Right now, buy a select Metabo HPT cordless nailer and get a 36-volt 2.5 amp-hour battery free, a $139.99 value. And as a Lowe's MVP, buy select Owens Corning shingles and earn 2 times the bonus points per dollar. Lowe's knows pros. Valid 5/11 through 7/12. While supplies last. Selection varies by location. U.S. only. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts, if any. Valid through 6/1. Subject to change.
One of the most influential names in comedy today, Andrew Schultz, will be live at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City, Saturday, July 29th. Known for his unapologetic and unsafe comedy, Andrew Schultz has become the most viewed comedian in the world. Don't miss Andrew Schultz live at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City, Saturday, July 29th. Tickets on sale Thursday, May 25th at 10 a.m. at theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older to wager or consume alcohol. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
As a dentist, I know what my patients are saying when they really can't speak. She says her gums have been bleeding. Is there any... Yep, New Crest Gum Detoxify and Restore is professionally designed to start healing gums from day one. Right. Healthy gums, healthy mouth.
Crest Gum Detoxify and Restore. Smile. Crest has you covered.
The Atco Thrill Show, Saturday, June 3rd at the Atco Dragway on Jackson Road in Atco. Tickets are $25 for adults and just $1 for kids ages 5 through 10. Find more at atcodragway.rocks.
A lot of new enrollments, huh? Braylon, Brayden.
Monique's daycare is crawling with new arrivals.
Hey, sweetie, are you hungry?
She needs more early childhood educators.
Did your sock slip off again?
And a nap.
Hey there, little guy. Okay. Shh. Whoa.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Do you love a good cigar almost as much as your family? Well, maybe that's an exaggeration, but you can find that perfect cigar at Smoker's Haven. With 5 New Jersey locations, Smoker's Haven has the finest selection of cigars in the area, like Ashton, My Father's, Romeo and Julieta, Monte Cristo, and more. All from the finest tobacco leaves and hand-rolled by the world's finest cigar makers. All locations are fully open. Stop in and let them help you find the perfect cigar to pair with your life. See all they have and their locations at smokershavennj.com.
Want to know my secret for a summer break that doesn't break the bank? Listen up, because this offer won't last forever. Kohl's gives you $10 when you spend over $25. So I got some cute everyday tees and shorts, the perfect tote for the beach, and all of the patio must-haves for barbecue season. Not to mention, I earned Kohl's Cash too. And now I'm off to enjoy the long weekend. Select styles. Offer ends May 29th. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohls.com for details.
With GMF financing, qualified buyers excludes Corvette.
At Bennett Chevrolet, we're selling new Chevys at real GM supplier employee prices and not 1 cent more. And you keep all the rebates. Not some. I said you keep all the rebates. Up to $8,000 right now during our Memorial Day super sale. Some dealers think they can imitate Bennett by giving you a discount, but they keep part or all the rebates. Bennett Chevy gives you both the real deal GM supplier employee price plus all the rebates. Up to $8,000 during our Memorial Day super sale. And there's available 1.9% financing. Looking for used? Bennett will pay you a minimum $10,000 for any clunker, junker, or whatever you can drag to our lot towards any pre-owned in stock. That's at least $10,000. We pay a lot more for good trades. And unlike other dealers, our sales team is non-commissioned. They're paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. You've got to come experience the difference. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Shout out again to Ernie and Brigantine who got the hint when I said all eyes on me. Yes, it's Tupac. Good job by Ernie there. We'll get back to Jalen Hurts and the Eagles and Hurts is not being all eyes on me personally. But right now, a lot of people have all eyes on the Phillies because Sixers, they're out of the postseason. Nobody cares about the Flyers. And, well, let's be realistic. We talk about the Eagles every day nonstop. But no, the Phillies got a huge win yesterday. Does it even matter, though? Bob Wankel from Crossing Broad joins us right now on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Bob, welcome in. How you doing this afternoon?
What's up, man? How are you? Good to talk to you.
So does it matter? Does Trey Turner hitting a home run and Alec Boehm getting a walk-off, giving the fans what they want on a Wednesday afternoon, does it matter going into this series with the Braves?
Listen, this is a huge series with the Braves this weekend. The Phillies have only played 3 games in the division to this point. They have been underwhelming to this point, but as we all know, they were underwhelming to this point last year, and we know what happened from there. I don't think that's a good template. I would not recommend consistently messing around for 50 games before putting your foot on the gas, but listen, they're only a game and a half out of the final wild card spot. They're 7 games behind Atlanta right now. I think the Braves are leaps and bounds ahead of this Phillies team, but if they win a series this weekend, say they take 3 out of 4, all of a sudden you're only 5 games back with a ton of division games left to play, 4 more months. So, yeah, it matters. Like, I don't know that that's necessarily yesterday the win that's going to spring them to a World Series run. When we look at the Phillies video yearbook next winter, are we going to look at this game and say that was the game? I have no idea, but if you expect this team to compete and be in it this summer, then it was an important game to avert a sweep against a team that right now is ahead of you in Arizona in that wild card chase.
Trey Turner's been struggling a lot. Like that video circulated all over the internet, him swinging at that ball like 3 feet off the plate. But then the same game, he hits a home run. And I remember earlier in the show, because the Phillies were playing the same time I was on the radio, and I'm sitting there like, well, you know, Turner's struggling. He'll eventually turn around. And then that home run was like a bomb to left field. Do you think a guy like Turner needs a home run like that to get himself going?
When you have a player like Trey Turner, who is an all-star caliber level player and has that track record of success, you would say no. But I would actually argue the other way and say he probably does. He's in a new city. There are expectations. Whether they're contract related or not, I think he holds himself to a high standard, knows that this team is in a position to potentially win this year. He knows that he's killed them so far. Over the last 7 games, he's hitting 194. Over the last 30 games, he's hitting 219. It's just not what you expect from a player like him. And I do think that no matter how good you are or how confident of a player you are, at some point, there is some level of doubt that starts to creep in. And not only has he been bad, he's been especially bad in big spots. And so I think to kind of get some reassurance, some self-validation, that swing was important for Trey Turner. And I'm not saying that that's going to springboard him to a stretch here over the next 30 games where he hits 370 and looks like the MVP candidate that a lot of people thought he would be. But I do think it reaches a point of absurdity where you're so bad that human nature, you start to doubt yourself a little bit. So I think the timing of the home run was especially big, and we'll see. You know, we'll see if this is the thing that kind of gets him going now.
You mentioned this is a very important series with the Braves. Of course, folks can hear the games Saturday and Sunday thanks to ESPN Radio right here on 97.3 ESPN. 4 games with the Braves, not a 3-game, Bob, a 4-game series. So, there's a chance that you could split this. If you split the series with the Braves, is that a small victory, or do you need to go into Atlanta and make a statement?
Well, I think in a perfect world, they've dug themselves this hole, and you don't want to be behind a week of baseball only 2 months into the season. So in a perfect world, you win this series and you undo some of that damage. But I do think that if you get out of Atlanta with a series split in 4 games, you have to objectively kind of look at that and say, all right, they've proven that they can play with one of the best teams in the National League. And keep in mind, this series is important for the Braves too. We always look at this through the lens of how the Phillies view a series. But if you're Atlanta, you say, hey, we were 14, 15 games better than this team last regular season, and then we let them off the hook in the postseason. So the Braves would love for nothing more to come into this weekend with 4 games at home on a holiday weekend. I'm sure the attendance will be strong. They would love to bury the Phillies here early on. So it really is a pivotal series in a lot of ways. And, I would tell you, if you look at the pitching matchups, you could make an argument. You can make an argument just based on who the Phillies are going to throw versus who the Braves are going to throw, that they have an advantage in those first 3 games. And there's a caveat to this, and I'll explain that in a moment. But you get Aaron Nola tonight against Dylan Dodd, a lefty who's been pretty unimpressive in a very short stint for the Braves this season. You have Taijuan Walker, who's been totally hit or miss, versus Jared Schuster, again, a lefty who struggled a little bit for the Braves this season. And then you have Zach Wheeler versus Charlie Morton, which I like Wheeler to Morton, but it's a toss-up more or less. The caveat, though, is that the Phillies are going to face 2 left-handed starters to open this series. And they have been dead last in on-base percentage against left-handed pitching this season. So it doesn't matter if you come into the game as one of the best lefties in all of baseball. It doesn't matter if you come into this game and you have a 7 ERA. If you're throwing the ball from the left side, you're giving the Phillies problems right now. So this is a thing that they're going to have to figure out soon. And maybe as soon as this weekend, if they want to split, if they want to potentially talk about winning 3 out of 4 here.
Bob Michael from Crossing Broad joining us here talking Phillies here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Bob, you mentioned all the lefties. Are the Phillies putting out the right lineup against these lefties? Because we're seeing more and more that, I'm not even sure if you can get away with long-term Brandon Marsh not playing against more lefties, especially considering that for his career, Bob, it's not like he's a horrible hitter against left-handed pitching.
Yeah, the splits, especially this season for Brandon Marsh, the disparity in his production, left versus right, is not that significant. The point that I would just make about Brandon Marsh not playing against lefties on a consistent basis. Now, this past week, he's been dealing with some injury issues, and the Phillies may have looked at these matchups as an opportunity to kind of let him rest, reset a little bit. He's been going through it the last 4 weeks or so. He struggled in the month of May. And so in a vacuum, fine. Hey, here's an opportunity to hit the reset button, get yourself a little bit healthier. Great. But moving forward, the Phillies have to figure out whether or not they think that Brandon Marsh can handle left-handed pitching. And can he do it when it really matters? This team needs another bat from the right side. And part of the reason they need a bat from the right side, it's Trey Turner struggles. That's part of the equation. Then obviously the loss of Rhys Hoskins just before the start of the regular season. You're talking about a guy that has some on-base skills, can hit 30 home runs, can grind through quality at bats for you on a consistent basis. I'm not in love with Rhys Hoskins, the player. The streakiness bothers me, but it's a substantial loss, and it's had a trickle-down effect into the Phillies' depth and how they match up late in games off the bench. So for me, the Phillies need to add a right-handed hitter. There's no question about it. Is that right-handed hitter somebody that can platoon with Brandon Marsh if you don't think that he can hit left-handed pitching long-term? Is that right-handed hitter somebody that plays first base, or do you think Bryce Harper is the answer there? Or is it more of a corner outfielder add? They've got to figure out how they want to add that impact right-handed bat. Where is that bat going to play? And that's something that they're going to need to figure out over the next 2 months. Because, again, and I've said this all along, this Phillies team, I know it sounds silly to say this right now. They're 3 games under 500. They're 7 games out of the division. When you talk about this Phillies team, talking about a National League Championship Series run or a World Series run kind of seems ridiculous. But this team is built to compete. It's about winning a title now. And if you don't think that Brandon Marsh can hit against left-handed pitching come October, well, then you better come up with a solution. Unless you're really convinced that when Christian Pache gets back, that his 18 games that he played was enough of a reason to believe that he can be that platoon piece. And that's a heck of a leap to make right now for a guy that has really struggled offensively throughout his short career. So they've got to figure out what they and how they view Brandon Marsh as a hitter.
Yeah, obviously they need more right-handed bats, but the other thing they are going to need probably sooner than later is more starting pitching depth. As of right now, they have no starting pitcher announced for Sunday Night Baseball, with Strider on the other side of the field. So the Braves are sending their best guy to the mound on Sunday Night Baseball in front of a national audience, and the Phillies have to be determined. I don't know how good to be determined's ERA is, but Bob, I feel like between the right-handed bat and the starting pitching, I don't know if you have enough resources. Maybe you know better than I do, but do the Phillies have enough resources to address the right-handed bat situation and getting another starting pitcher in here? Because guess what? You know who's pitching really good right now, who was on the Phillies last year? Kyle Gibson down to Baltimore, for goodness sake.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about the order of importance of the Phillies' needs, and I am a big believer in that bat from the right side, but I don't think you would get an argument out of myself or anybody that the most glaring deficiency in this roster right now is starting pitching. And right now, you're reasonably confident what you're going to get out of Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. I know they haven't up to quite their standard here this season, but you still feel pretty good about what they bring to the table on a start-to-start basis. But you can make the argument that the other three slots in the rotation, you have no idea what you're getting right now.
Right.
Are you getting blow-up Taijuan Walker, or are you getting 6 innings of shutout baseball Taijuan Walker?
Mm-hmm.
Ranger Suarez, everyone loves Ranger. We all know what the upside is there. We've seen him do it in big spots. You know that he didn't have spring training. He's behind schedule this year, but he's been horrible in 3 starts. I mean, there's no other way to say it. We can excuse it away, and I think there's some validity in those excuses, but he has been ineffective through 3 starts. So you don't know what you're getting out of him right now. And then that fifth spot you're talking about with the to be determined going up against Spencer Strider on Sunday night. Now, the Phillies actually got away with that against the Diamondbacks. They had Matt Strahm, and then they piggybacked him with Dylan Covey, who was pretty good. 5 innings, 1 run. I don't know that you can consistently count on that. So you better cross your fingers if you're the Phillies that Ranger Suarez gives you some middle of the rotation production, that Taijuan Walker does the same, and that you can go out and make one meaningful acquisition into the middle of that rotation. Because I think the Phillies need that number 2, number 3 type of starter, not just like the Noah Syndergaard edition that can kind of be functional for you in the back end of the rotation. I think they need another impact arm if they really want to compete against the Houston Astros of the world, the Dodgers of the world, when it comes time to do so in October. We'll see. And I know Andrew Painter's part of the mix here, but if I'm the Phillies, I can't bank on that because he's one setback away. He's one, bullpen with some tightness following it away from that's it for the year, right? So you really are going to have to hold your breath on his progression and him getting back by later this summer.
I mean, the one good thing for the Phillies that we should mention, because I was talking with Steve Buchanan yesterday from DraftKings. He brought up the fact that we were talking about how the American League is ridiculous right now. Like the entire AL East could make the postseason, and then the AL Central is a dumpster fire, and the AL West is very competitive. The National League, it's like Braves, and nobody knows who the second best team is. So, like, it's not like the Phillies are in a league that's going to prohibit them from making the postseason. The problem is when you get to that postseason, as you said, can you really depend on Taijuan Walker, Ranger Suarez, and TBD to carry you in a postseason?
Yeah, and I think that's the question, and you're absolutely right. If you look at the landscape of the National League right now, you like where the Braves are at, you like where the Dodgers are at, and you have to you tip your cap to them too, because they're perennial contenders. It's not like these teams are out of nowhere. They do this every year, so there's a certain pedigree to both of those teams. After that, it's kind of a toss-up. Some people really like the Brewers. I don't think that they can hit enough long-term. They've started to actually come back to earth here recently. I like that Diamondbacks team. Right now, like if you pin me down, and I guess it's easy to say this because they're 8 games over 500, but right now, if you say, are the Diamondbacks a playoff team this season, I would say yes. They don't give away at bats. They have some decent starting rotation pieces. Zach Gallen is arguably right now on the short list of Cy Young contenders. Like, I like that team. But after that, I mean, who knows? And that's where I think if you're a Phillies fan, you're reasonably optimistic that there's enough talent here. There's enough veteran experience, despite some of the obvious flaws this team has, that they will get it together and ultimately be one of the 6 teams at the end that's there.
He's Bob Wankel. Give him a follow on Twitter at Bob Wankel CB for all of his Phillies coverage. Of course, the Phillies have a 4-game set with the Braves starting tonight. And of course, don't forget to check out the podcast, right, Bob, with Crossing Broad?
Yeah, it's Crossed Up, the Phillies podcast. It's myself and then Anthony Sanfilippo, who does a lot of Phillies and Flyers stuff for Crossing Broad as well.
Perfect. Bob, appreciate you jumping on today. Take care of yourself.
Thanks a lot, Josh. Talk soon.
Bob Wankel here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. And one of the big takeaways away from that conversation is Bob said, look, there are 2 specific flaws for this Phillies team. Which one do you prioritize if you're the Phillies? The right-handed bat, Bob says, look, I am really on that bandwagon. But I'm telling you, for me at least, I say the pitching. I don't know a team that has won a championship without pitching. And, you know, you look at the National League, as I said, the National League is not holding you back. The National League is not keeping you from making a run to get into the postseason. So you have time to turn around. You have time to pick it up. But it does start this weekend. You know, we mentioned it. Noah starts tonight. Taijuan Walker Friday. Zach Wheeler Saturday. You got to win 2 out of those 3 games. Because then Sunday, you're going against the Braves' best pitcher. And even though you've had, a little success against Strider in the last year plus, he is their best pitcher, and he's only getting better. And it kind of reminds me, at least, for those of us who remember the 90s. I know some of you out there listening on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank. See, I know some of you, you're a little younger than me. And I remember in the 90s when you played the Braves in a series, any chance you had to miss one of their best guys, in the early 90s, it was Glavine and Smoltz, and you were hoping and praying you got, Steve Avery or Pete Smith, right? And then the mid to late 90s, the idea is, oh man, you got Maddox and Glavine and Smoltz, and you had to figure out, well, who do we have the best guys against? We want to avoid at least one of these guys. The Braves right now don't have that duo or trio of starters that you're going in there freaking out about. Bob just described it. Dodd, he's not very good. Schuster's okay. Morton, he's all right, but he's inconsistent. So you should be able to get 2 out of these 4 games against the Braves. It should not be something you can't get done. You could argue that their 3 best pitchers right now are Strider, Morton, and Elder. Well, the problem with that is Morton has a 3.6 ERA. You got to face Elder in this series. You're only facing Strider. So there's no reason why you can't go out there and get the job done. Dodd's got an over 6 ERA. Schuster's got an over 5 ERA. You're telling me you shouldn't win those 2 games and then go into Saturday against Morton and at least hang on and hang around. And then if you get 2 or 3 before Sunday, you're feeling pretty good about yourself going into an off day on Monday. Yeah, the Phillies don't play on Memorial Day. They have a day off as they travel to New York to play the Mets for 3 games. So this is going to be a very interesting series, a very interesting barometer, not a panic meter barometer, but a measurement of where you are compared to the team at the top of your division kind of barometer. Because as Bob said, this team obviously has an issue against left-handed pitching, and they got to fix the right-handed side of the lineup sooner than later. Now, whether that's a guy like CJ Cron, who's been rumored the first baseman for the Rockies, or whether that is somebody else, the reality is that you can't give up too much to get that right-handed bat because you're still going to need those resources to go out and get a pitcher who is going to be as good or better than Taijuan Walker. Because right now, as Bob said, Ranger Suarez is not looking good. And whether that's because he's just ramping up or if that's because there's something, bigger going on here. You got to address this pitching because, as I said earlier, you cannot win a championship without pitching. And the Braves, they don't have elite pitching. The National League right now is not a league that will keep you from making the postseason. You just got to start winning games. You're 23-26. You're almost at the 50-game mark. You're almost getting close to a third of the way through the season. Give me your text on the other side, 609-403-0973. You text in with your name. You have a chance to win Shane Gillis Comedy Show tickets at Ocean Casino Resort. Steve and Ryan won yesterday. You could be the next winner today. Keep text coming in. Jalen Hurts, is he a top 5 quarterback? You're concerned about the Phillies. And, of course, in the next hour, we will talk Sixers as well with Keith Pompey from the Philadelphia Inquirer. I'm Josh Hennig, filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN.
A sports station that hits a home run every time.
Swing and a high fly ball. Left field. That one on its way, and that one is gone. Inside the left field foul pole. A no-doubter from Trey Turner.
It's 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's home for the best Phillies sports talk.
0 down, 0% financing, and $7,000 off MSRP on every clearly marked Matt Blatt Nissan in stock.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Stuck in a loan or lease? AJ the Trade Man can get you released, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. With 0 down and 0% financing on every Nissan Rogue for 36 months, even 0% for 60 months, plus $7,000 off MSRP on every Nissan Titan in stock. And don't forget, AJ the Trade Man will get you more for your trade, so you can drive a brand new Nissan. And of course, the Matt Blatt Nissan Peace of Mind. 4-day love it or leave it return policy. Only at MattBlattNissan.com. On approved Tier 1 credit through NEMAC. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle plus tax tag and $589 doc fee. Offers can't be combined. Call 877-289-6670 or go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 6/3/2023. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
A lot of new enrollments, huh? Braylon, Braden.
Monique's daycare is crawling with new arrivals.
Hey, sweetie, are you hungry?
She needs more early childhood educators.
Did your socks slip off again?
And a nap.
Hey there, little guy. Okay. Shh. Whoa.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
East Coast Roofing and Siding, protecting what you love and own. East Coast Roofing and Siding, trust us with your family and home.
Hi, I'm Larry Steitler, and this is Jeff with East Coast Roofing, Siding, and Windows, New Jersey's most trusted home remodeling contractor for well over 40 years. Everybody knows that when you hire East Coast for your roofing, siding, window, or door project, you're getting the best products, the best installation, with the best lifetime warranties. But now for a limited time, when you hire East Coast, we are offering 12 months of no payments and no interest, along with a 15% instant rebate. All of this at last year's pricing. There's never been a better time to protect your family and home, so give us a call at 609-625-1900 or visit us at eastcoastroofing.com today to schedule your free consultation. If you'll call,
we'll show up. East Coast Roofing and Siding, trust us with your family and home.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Leaving for the gym so early?
I'm ready to go.
Since you started taking Nugenix Total T, you've been acting like when we met in our 20s.
I feel like myself again. Lower testosterone after turning 40 slowed me down. Nugenix Total T has been a game changer for me.
What is it about Nugenix Total T that's different?
Well, it's a patented key ingredient called testofen. It boosts free and total testosterone to help you get back the drive and energy from your youth. It's backed by 5 clinical studies.
I've seen the huge difference it's made for you in the gym, at work, and in the bedroom.
I'm so glad I sent them a text for my complimentary bottle. Text PRIDE to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. Nugenix is the #1 selling testosterone boosting brand at GNC and Walmart. Do it now, and we'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our newest, most powerful fat burner ever. Absolutely free. Text PRIDE to 321-321. That's PRIDE to 321-321.
Ask
Sherwin-Williams during the Memorial Day sale, May 26th through June 5th, and get 30% off paints and stains with prices starting at $31.14. That means 30% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, get 30% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
The weather is getting warmer, and that means it's time for the Gentilini Motors Memorial Day celebration event that ends with our 47th annual Car and Truck Show on Saturday, June 3rd from 10 to 2. It's an all-American celebration with hot dogs and spicy sausages on the grill, vintage cars and trucks from all eras, and fun for the whole family. Visit us online at GentilinIMotors.com or in person at our Ford and Chevy dealerships today. Thousands off new or certified pre-owned vehicles. Get 0% financing on select models or lease one of 11 different models for under $300 per month. Stop by Gentilini Motors to kick off the summer with us at our 47th annual Car and Truck Show. Take advantage of the best deals with real value and no empty promises on America's best-selling and most awarded brands. Located at 500 John S. Penn Boulevard next to the airport in Woodbine, New Jersey, we're just a short drive from anywhere.
Just a short drive from anywhere. Gentilini Family Motors.
Now, back to more Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's sports leader.
Wrapping up the first hour of the Sports Bash, Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill on a Thursday as we count down to Memorial Day weekend here in South Jersey. Keep it tuned here at 97.3 ESPN. We're not just giving away Shane Gillis comedy show tickets for Ocean Casino Resort today, but tomorrow we have another giveaway you're going to stay tuned for here on the Sports Bash. You know, Mike Gill, he's not here right now, but he left me stuff to give you listening out there on the radio and on 97.3 ESPN mobile app. So keep it tuned here. We talked at the beginning of the show, is Jalen Hurts a top 5 quarterback in the league? Well, if you leave your name, you have a chance to win Shane Gillis comedy show tickets, just like Matt and Kate May. He is entered in the contest at 609-403-0973. That's the text board. He texted in. Hurts is just getting started. He's a top 5 last year quarterback, and he has room to grow. Yes, Matt and Kate May. Matt, I tend to think that your perspective is very much in line with my perspective, in that I think that I don't know if Hurts is top 5 right now. Like, he's in my top 5, but I think that part of it is he still has room to grow. He still has room to ascend into that top 5, top 4 tier. And I think the big question for Hurts is, even if he has another, MVP caliber season this year, what does that mean for the Eagles? Because one of the problems for quarterbacks in the NFL is, you have quarterbacks who have amazing seasons, right? You have quarterbacks who can put up huge numbers statistically in the regular season, but they don't have postseason success. One of those guys is Justin Herbert. Herbert, he has already thrown for 14,000 passing yards in 3 seasons. He's averaging almost 5,000 passing yards a year. The guy has 94 passing touchdowns in his first 3 years. That's an average of around almost 31 touchdowns a year. And on top of that, he's had different coordinators. The coordinator he had his rookie year is not the coordinator he has now when he was offensive rookie of the year. So Justin Herbert is putting up big numbers. He's showing you that he's a high caliber quarterback. His touchdown interception ratio is phenomenal, but his team is 25-24 when he starts. So when you hear a guy like Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts say it's not about the money, it's about winning championships, it goes to show you that, how we measure success is complicated. Because everybody wants the quarterback who throws for all the yards and all the touchdowns. Most people will agree that when Andrew Luck was playing in the NFL, when he was healthy, he was one of the best in the league. And Luck had 4 different seasons with over 4,200 passing yards. He had multiple seasons with 30-plus touchdowns. Never won a championship, never even got to a Super Bowl. Injuries caught up with him throughout his entire career. Now he's in retirement. So we look at Jalen Hurts, and we say he has room to grow. Is he a top 5 quarterback? We all might be measuring it differently. Like the Texans said earlier in the show, Jalen Hurts got to a Super Bowl or a super team. How much of it was the team? How much of it was him? The problem is that Herbert is putting up elite numbers as a quarterback, but his team is not very good around him. It's a catch-22. We'll get into more of that throughout the show. Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill. 2 o'clock hour done. Next hour, 97.3 ESPN.
The NBA playoffs continue on ESPN Radio.
Tatum gives the Celtics their largest lead.
Facing elimination, the Celtics win Game 4, dealing the Heat their first playoff loss in Miami this postseason. Now the series returns to Boston, where the Celtics face another must-win. Will they survive? Game 5 of the Celtics and Heat, presented by Indeed. Coverage begins tonight at 8 Eastern.
Listen to the Eastern Conference Finals exclusively on 97.3 ESPN.
Hello, I'm Chief Joe Fussner of the Ventnor City Police Department. Did you know that the period between Memorial Day and Labor Day is considered the busiest and most dangerous travel time of the year? In New Jersey, fatal crashes, alcohol-related crashes, and young driver crashes all occur at higher rates during the summer season. Protect yourself and your passengers by wearing seatbelts every trip, both day and night. Your seatbelt is the single most effective way to reduce serious injuries, and it increases your chances of surviving a motor vehicle crash by as much as 45%. Law enforcement agencies across Atlantic County will be providing increased safety enforcement by joining the statewide Click It or Ticket campaign. Wearing your seatbelt is the law. If you're not wearing your seatbelt, you will get a ticket. Please do your part to keep our roadways safe by obeying traffic safety laws and practicing safe driving habits. The most important partner in our effort to prevent crashes and save lives is you. This message is brought to you by the Atlantic County Office of Highway Traffic Safety and the Ventnor City Police Department.
As a dentist, I know what my patients are saying when they really can't speak. She says her gums have been bleeding. Is there anything you can do? Absolutely. You can try New Crest Gum Detoxify and Restore. Yep, New Crest Gum Detoxify and Restore is professionally designed to start healing gums from day one. Right. Healthy gums, healthy mouth.
Crest Gum Detoxify and Restore. Smile. Crest has you covered.
A lot of new enrollments, huh? Braylon, Braden.
Monique's daycare is crawling with new arrivals.
Hey, sweetie, are you hungry?
She needs more early childhood educators.
Did your sock slip off again?
And a nap.
Hey there, little guy. Okay. Shh. Whoa.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Do you love a good cigar almost as much as your family? Well, maybe that's an exaggeration, but you can find that perfect cigar at Smoker's Haven. With 5 New Jersey locations, Smoker's Haven has the finest selection of cigars in the area, like Ashton, My Father's, Romeo and Julieta, Monte Cristo, and more. All from the finest tobacco leaves and hand-rolled by the world's finest cigar makers. All locations are fully open. Stop in and let them help you find the perfect cigar to pair with your life. See all they have and their locations at smokershavennj.com.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Right now you're thinking, Comparion, never heard of them. We know. We also know that you have no idea that Comparion Insurance agents are local and provide expert advice. So to help it stick, we're going to say local agent 4 times in the next 15 seconds. Ready? Go. Our local agents know you and your community. Our local agents offer insurance from top carriers. Our local agents have minty fresh breath.
Find us at ComparionInsurance.com. Comparion Insurance Agency. Local agents, expert advice.
And there's number 4.
For adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy, now there's Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months, and Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Nothing and me go hand in hand. Nothing on my skin, that's my new plan. Nothing is every day.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, you could achieve 90% clearer skin. Ask your doctor about the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
The weather is getting warmer, and that means it's time for the Gentilini Motors Memorial Day celebration event that ends with our 47th annual Car and Truck Show on Saturday, June 3rd from 10 to 2. It's an all-American celebration with hot dogs and spicy sausages on the grill, vintage cars and trucks from all eras, and fun for the whole family. Visit us online at GentilinIMotors.com or in person at our Ford and Chevy dealerships today to save thousands off new or certified pre-owned vehicles. Get 0% financing on select models or lease one of 11 different models for under $300 per month. Stop by Gentilini Motors to kick off the summer with us at our 47th annual Car and Truck Show. Take advantage of the best deals with real value and no empty promises on America's best-selling and most awarded brands. Located at 500 John S. Penn Boulevard next to the airport in Woodbine, New Jersey, we're just a short drive from anywhere.
Just a short drive from anywhere. Gentilini Family Motors.
The voice of sports in South Jersey. The Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
I like the conversation. Every day it's something new.
WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. A town square media station. Serving all of South Jersey. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Inside the mat. Here's Mike Gill.
3 o'clock now in the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig, calling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN, leading you in to Memorial Day weekend. You know, I was driving into work this morning. Traffic's already picking up, man. So where I live right now, I have to get on Route 49, get to Route 50, to get to eventually the Parkway. Yeah, Tuckahoe Petersburg Road, for those of you who know that Cape May County area. And I gotta tell you, I'm pulling up to Route 49. I wait a little longer to get at and get my way in. Got to the light of Route 50. I wait a little longer. Got to the Parkway. Again, had to wait a little longer. The drive, it's getting to be that time of year. Got to give ourselves a little more time to go where we're going because we're not getting there like we used to the rest of the year. I'm just telling you right now. It's already starting. Don't forget your chance to win Shane Gillis Comedy Show tickets. We gave away 2 pairs yesterday. We have more tickets to give away today here on the Sports Bash. Just text in your name and your thoughts on what we've been talking about. Jalen Hurts top 5 quarterbacks. Vote in the poll at 973 ESPN on Twitter. Right now, 100% of the vote is Jalen Hurts is top 5 quarterback. But the text board at 609-403-0973 is not as unanimous. We'll get some of your more texts in just a moment. Also, don't forget, coming up in about 20 minutes from now, Keith Pompey covers the Sixers for Philadelphia Inquirer. He wrote an article about Nick Nurse that ties right into our poll question. Before we get back to the text board, I just want to bring up one more thing about evaluating quarterbacks. I think one of the problems when it comes to debating quarterbacks is when you look at who these quarterbacks are, you have a situation where, like I said with Herbert, how do we differentiate between who is an elite talent and who is on a great team? Patrick Mahomes did the greatest differentiation ever in sports history. The Chiefs lost their #1 receiver in Tyreek Hill. They had to rebuild their offensive line. And Mahomes has now won a championship with a #1 receiver and without a #1 caliber receiver. Travis Kelce is now his #1 target. And even though every team knows Travis Kelce is #1 target, you still can't stop him. You still can't stop Mahomes. You still can't stop Andy Reid. It's a huge differentiation point. So the problem is if you take away some of these players from these other quarterbacks, for example, is Josh Allen still Josh Allen if he doesn't have Stephon Diggs? Is Joe Burrow still Joe Burrow if he doesn't have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, right? I'm not saying those quarterbacks aren't those guys, but we know what Jalen Hurts, if we're being objective, even though I personally think Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback, I will also acknowledge that he took a step forward once he got A.J. Brown. It made a huge difference. Now, was it the number one difference, or was a bigger part of the difference Hurts being in the same offense for 2 straight years? That's another side of the coin. A guy like Jalen Hurts was in a different offense from basically his freshman year of college until last season. He had multiple different coordinators at Alabama. Then he transferred to Oklahoma, a completely different offense with Lincoln Riley. Gets to the NFL. He has Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson gets fired. They bring in Nick Sirianni. He has Shane Steichen. And even now, even though Steichen's gone, the concepts of Sirianni's offense are still in place because Sirianni is still very, very active in the game plan and the game day structure of the offense, even though Brian Johnson is running it now. So for Hurts, how much of it is the players, how much it is the system he's in? You know, I mentioned with guys like Herbert and Luck, they put up gaudy numbers. They're amazing talents, but the teams around them are not as good. So we ding them for their success, even lack of quote unquote winning success on the field, even though their talent is elite. It's an interesting conversation. Again, for those who didn't hear us in the first hour, the reason why this came up is because DeAndre Hopkins was on the I Am Athlete podcast, and he was asked who are the 5 quarterbacks he wants throwing to him. If he could have anyone in the NFL he wants. And the guys he came up with, in no particular order, he wasn't ranking them. He was just coming up with 5 guys off the top of his head, were Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. So are those the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL? I say no. Now, DeAndre Hopkins says, those are my 5 quarterbacks. Those are the quarterbacks I want throwing me the ball. But I would say, for example, I would take Joe Burrow over Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert. You heard DeAndre Hopkins in this I Am Athlete podcast when they brought up Dak Prescott. He kind of just gave it the good old whistle in the wave. He said, I'm not interested. I'm going to talk about somebody else. I think Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. I don't know if he's top 5, but I don't even, if he's top 8, but I think he's a good quarterback. And I think that, people have been dismissing him too much of his career. Where's Aaron Rodgers in this conversation? All the television shows on almost every channel, ESPN, NFL Network, Fox Sports, CBS Sports, Aaron Rodgers, all over the place, right? But not in the top 5. Is Rodgers or Lamar Jackson better? Who would you rather have? That's where the Hurts conversation comes in. Is he a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? Johnny G chimes in at 609-403-0973. Says, hey, Josh, I would take Hurts as my fantasy team quarterback. He is a top 3. He can run for yards and TDs and has weapons to throw to. Plus, his offensive line is top notch. My only fear is he is one play away from injury if he doesn't play smarter and safer. That's from Johnny G in Ocean City. First of all, Johnny G, always good to hear from you. 2 very interesting separate points. Because this is where fantasy sports, confuse people sometimes. You can have a guy having a great fantasy football season, but he might not be the quarterback you want with the 2 minutes left in the game and you're down by 3 and you got to drive the ball 70 yards down the field for a score to either force overtime or win the game. but he might be the guy that wins you your fantasy football league and you have bragging rights all over your buddies and their money in your pocket. So you're right. Hurts is a great fantasy football quarterback. The point you make about the injury, I think, is something that, and I don't want to point the finger at anybody particular about this, but I think it is an idea that has been propagated and a narrative that has been manipulated by certain people who are not on 97.3 ESPN radio. There has been a perception for the last 20 plus years, ever since Michael Vick came into the NFL, that these mobile quarterbacks, these elite athletes who play quarterback, are, well, they're one hit away from an injury. They gotta not take the hits. And this is where the Andrew Luck conversation comes back, because DeAndre Hopkins said on this podcast that Josh Allen is the new Andrew Luck. Well, what was the concern with Andrew Luck? Andrew Luck took too many hits. He ran and tried to run people over when he scrambled out of the pocket. He tried to blast people. He tried to run people over. And his willingness to take hits was the beginning of the end of his NFL career. And Josh Allen is kind of right around the same line, where Josh Allen's a big dude. Okay? Josh Allen physically is a monster of a human being at 6'5" and about 240. Well, Andrew Luck's about the same size. Andrew Luck was 6'4", 240. So you have two men who physically are large human beings. But when you take a lot of hits, you're more likely to get injured. Jalen Hurts is a guy who doesn't run to contact. He's not trying to run people over. Even though Jalen Hurts is 6'1" and about 228, and I mean I'm a power lifter. I can lift more than you can at the gym kind of thick. Okay? He's not trying to run people over like a Josh Allen or a Andrew Luck was. So I don't think that Hurts has to play smarter and safer, Johnny G in Ocean City. I think Jalen has to keep evolving in his football knowledge of when and how to run. Because remember, the one hit he took last year was in a preseason game, and he was running out of bounds, and the guy dropped that late hit on him. And everybody almost started to fight with the Jets. Remember that? Well, Hurts was playing smarter and safer. He was doing the right thing, and he got blasted out of bounds. Lamar Jackson, a couple of years ago, got hit and injured sliding. He was sliding. He was going down, and the guy still hit him. Remember Carson Wentz, that what should have been an illegal hit, but was never called, by Jadeveon Clowney to his head? He was sliding. He got hurt. I don't think in any of those scenarios I just named did Hurts or Wentz or Jackson not do the safer, smart thing. But in all those cases, they all were in a very ugly predicament. So I don't know if Hurts has to play smarter and safer. I think Hurts is growing as a quarterback in terms of his intelligence. And I think that, the only game that he legitimately was playing a style of football that was dangerous, if you want to use that term, was the Bears game. And I blame the coaching staff for that. Why is this coaching staff calling QB power multiple times? I understand we're in love with the QB sneak, but the QB sneak has value because the quarterback is not running in between the tackles every single time. If Hurts didn't have so many QB sneak calls by Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni in that game, does he hurt his shoulder? I don't think so. So is that a situation where do we blame the coaches for putting him in harm's way, not having a play call that was smarter and safer? Or do we blame the quarterback for not saying, you know what? I don't really need to run the ball up the middle here. I'm gonna opt out of this play and go to a passing play. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if there is a specific direct answer to that. So I'm not as concerned as some people are about Hurts being one play away from an injury, because guess what? Lamar Jackson got injured last year in the pocket trying to throw the ball. Justin Fields got hurt in the pocket trying to throw the ball. Both of those are mobile quarterbacks. I think most people agree that Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields are two of the best athletes we have at the quarterback position. And both of them got injured not running in the open field. They got injured standing in the pocket, throwing the ball, because their offensive lines were trash. So that goes back to the other point that Johnny G from Ocean City made at 609-403-0973. He said the offensive line is top notch. So are we really worried about Hurts' safety as much if he didn't have a top-notch offensive line? Again, these are interesting questions to have about this stuff. Mr. 305 chimes in at 609-403-0973. Says, Josh, I like Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen as my top three quarterbacks. I would say Lamar is 4, Hurts is 5, Herbert is 6. But I think that Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence could crack the top 5 if they are great this year. I like that you brought up Trevor Lawrence, because I think Lawrence is on a serious ascension, because I remember what he looked like before Doug Peterson got a hold of him. He was a guy that did not look like the number one pick in the draft. He looked a little lost, honestly, at times last season, the previous season. Doug Peterson gets a hold of him. He goes from having 17 interceptions to 8. That's a huge turnaround. You know, it's not that he was any less or more talented, but when you have a jump in completion percentage from 59 to 66%, that tells me you're ascending. I think that's a great point about Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence could be the next ascending quarterback that we're talking about next offseason as a potential top 5 conversation. And I think that's where the Herbert conversation is interesting, because Justin Herbert, him and Lawrence are both two of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL today. You could argue that their arm talent is right up there, right behind Mahomes and Allen. But is Lawrence on a team that's going to help him make that deep playoff run that Herbert has not had, that Lamar Jackson has not had? But I think talent-wise, Lawrence is definitely in that he could be the next guy conversation. Deshaun Watson is interesting because before all the off-the-field issues with him and all those women, Deshaun Watson, many people believe, was a top 5, top 8 quarterback in the league. If he can get back to what he was doing before 2020, Watson is definitely has to be in the conversation. Now, is he higher or lower than Herbert? I don't know. The problem with a guy like Watson is, I don't know if it's a literal problem, but it's an interesting conversation. Deshaun Watson had all of his great years, that 2018, 2019, 2020, where he was putting up almost 4,000 yards a year, and he was throwing for all those touchdowns, and he was considered in that one of the best in the league conversation. It was before Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow got drafted. It was before Trevor Lawrence got drafted. It was before Jalen Hurts came along. So is Deshaun Watson still that dude? Or does he get shuffled down the list by the guys who have passed him in the rankings? The other thing about what you wrote there is Lamar at 4. Lamar is going to be a fascinating test case next year because, number one, he has a new offensive coordinator, Todd Monken. He had been having the same guy, Greg Roman, for years. Does a new offensive coordinator help Lamar Jackson take that next step? And number two, He has Odell Beckham Jr. now. Odell is the best receiver he has ever played with, and that's even with Odell coming off an injury. Odell is not number one wide receiver in the NFL, Odell, anymore. But if Odell Beckham comes back and he is at least what the Rams had a couple of years ago, he is still a top 10 receiver in this league. What does Lamar Jackson look like when you have that kind of receiver? Because remember, Joe Flacco, that Super Bowl run, everyone points to how well he played. He played that well because Anquan Boldin was also playing at an elite level in that run as well. And him and Torrey Smith seemingly caught everything Joe Flacco threw in their vicinity. Not even always at them, but in the region of them. So sometimes a great wide receiver can make a quarterback take a next step in their development and their evolution. It'll be interesting to see, does Lamar do that with the new coordinator, with the new wide receiver? All right, coming up next, we'll take a break from the Eagles talk. Sixers, who should be the next head coach? Well, Keith Pompey wrote at the Philadelphia Inquirer, Philly.com, who he thinks should be the next head coach, and it's right in line with our poll results from yesterday's conversation. That's coming up next. I'm Josh Hennig, filling for Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
We never stop talking Eagles and NFL. It's football at 4, every day at 4 p.m. on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
The ADCO Thrill Show, Saturday, June 3rd at the ADCO Dragway on Jackson Road in ADCO. Tickets are $25 for adults and just $1 for kids ages 5 through 10. Find more at ADCODragway.rocks.
For adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy, now there's Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months, and Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Nothing and me go hand in hand. Nothing on my skin, that's my new place. Nothing is every day.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, you could achieve 90% clearer skin. Ask your doctor about the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Kickstarting your summer at the Home Depot is all about 3 things: saving, doing, and mulching. Make the most of our summer savings at the Home Depot now by getting 5 bags of Vigoro Premium Wood Mulch for just $10. Use it to make your garden pop and retain optimal soil moisture. And if you don't know how much you need, make use of the mulch calculator on our app. Summer savings means summer doing and mulching with Vigoro Mulch at 5 for $10 at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
What dealer has new Kias under 25 grand and only 2.9% financing?
Who is Matt Black Kia?
What dealer will pay off your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth?
Who is Matt Black Kia?
Correct. Have a job clearing $350 per week? Matt Black Kia in Egg Harbor Township or Toms River wants to approve you. New 2023 Kia Forte or Soul, 0 down and just 2.9% financing for 48 months. Plus, we're overloaded with trades, low mileage, one owner trades, many with remaining factory warranty, and they must go to make room for new Kias arriving daily. Just because you don't see your new Kia on the lot doesn't mean you can't be driving it home tomorrow with our exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Black Kia.
With approved credits, not all will qualify. $27.78 per thousand financed. Go to MattBlackKia.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes. Expires 5/31/23. Matt Black Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Carrie, is this schedule the most updated?
There's a wedding season rush at Dr. Iona's dental practice.
You're fully booked this week. We can try and squeeze you in next Tuesday.
She needs a dental hygienist to unveil fresh smiles.
How long has 3 been under the UV light?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job.
required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Leaving for the gym so early?
I'm ready to go.
Since you started taking Nugenix Total T, you've been acting like when we met in our 20s.
I feel like myself again. Lower testosterone after turning 40 slowed me down. Nugenix Total T has been a game changer for me.
What is it about Nugenix Total T that's different?
Well, it's a patented key ingredient called testofen. It boosts free and total testosterone to help you get back the drive and energy from your youth. It's backed by 5 clinical studies.
I've seen the huge difference it's made for you in the gym, at work, and in the bedroom.
I'm so glad I sent them a text for my complimentary bottle. Text PRIDE to 321321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. Nugenix is the #1 selling testosterone boosting brand at GNC and Walmart. Do it now and we'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our newest, most powerful fat burner ever. Absolutely free. Text PRIDE to 321321. That's PRIDE to 321321.
Next up, straight talk from Doug. Ever notice that saying no offense is offensive? Like, no offense, but you're overpaying for your wireless. See? Offensive.
That's the Straight Talk talking. Get unlimited plans as low as $35 a month from Straight Talk on America's most reliable 5G network. Available at Walmart and Walmart.com. On the $35 plan, first 10 gigabytes data at high speed, then 2G speeds. Refer to the latest terms at straighttalk.com. Based on most first place rankings, root metrics, second half 2022 assessments of 125 metros. Experiences vary, not an endorsement.
Time to tee it up at the 40th Annual Ranch Hope Wranglers Golf Tournament, Friday, June 2nd at Centerton Golf Club, presented by Woodruff Energy. Proceeds will benefit Ranch Hope's youth activities. Ranch Hope is entering its 59th year, serving the youth and families of New Jersey. The tournament is made possible by Comtech Systems, PSEG Nuclear, Mannington Flooring, Atlantic City Electric, First National Bank of Elmer, SJ Water Conditioning, Heritage Dairy Stores, RCL Solar, Foster Carney Foundation, and Pennsville Bank. Let's tee it up for Ranch Hope. Sponsor and player registrations at ranchhope.org.
Now, back to more Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's sports leader.
Josh Hennig, Phillies for Mike Gill on a Thursday here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle. I wanted to give the results of the poll we ran yesterday. So, for those who may or may not have heard all the details, what happened yesterday was the report came out about Nick Nurse being a finalist for the Phoenix Suns job after he was already talked about as a potential finalist for the Bucks job after he already interviewed for the Sixers job. And the interesting conversation that came out of that was, what should the Sixers do about that? Because the 76ers are a team that has a huge, huge decision to make here who their head coach should be. So yesterday we ran the poll question. Now that Nurse has interviewed for the job and there's multiple teams who are interested in him being head coach, what should the Sixers do? The 3 options people were given were hire Nick Nurse as soon as possible, interview all the candidates, or just forget about it. Well, the final results of the poll were very specific. You guys who voted in the poll at 973 ESPN on Twitter resoundingly said hire Nick Nurse ASAP, 54% of the vote. 32% said interview all the candidates. And 14% just said forget about it. And yesterday we got a lot of texts at 609-403-0973 from people who they like Nick Nurse, but the person they really want is somebody else. You know, for example, one person said, I really want the guy to be Sam Cassell. A couple people said they really like Frank Vogel, for example, because he's a local guy. Other people said, look, I really like Budenholzer because what Budenholzer did with Giannis. And the people who like Nick Nurse are the people who are kind of in the Monty Williams boat. They look at Nurse, they look at Williams, and talk about culture and environment. And so it's an interesting predicament the 76ers are in because all these candidates are good candidates. All these candidates are worthwhile people to have as the man running the organization. The problem is that you're not going to make everybody happy. So it's less about who is the best man for the job, or is it who makes the most sense for the job? And like I said, I think that is in many ways where the predicament is. The predicament for a team like the Sixers is you're not going to make everyone happy. I think that if you walk away from this process with either or Nurse, Budenholzer, Williams, Vogel, I think most rational people will be pretty happy with that. I think most reasonable people will look at that and say, I like that. I'm good with that. I'm down with that. I can work with that. And part of the reason why people might say that is because of the fact that, you know, Doc Rivers not being here anymore. By the way, he's interviewing for the Suns job. I think there were a lot of people who just never really liked Doc. There was always this negative vibe around Doc, whereas some of these new candidates, you don't have the negative narrative being brought into the job. Let's bring Keith Pompey from the Philadelphia Inquirer joining us right now here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig playing for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Keith, welcome in. How you doing today?
Hey, what's up, my man? How you been?
Good. So we ran the poll yesterday, and it kind of runs in line with your article over with Philadelphia Inquirer online about Nick Nurse making the most sense for you. And it seems our audience, at least on the Twitter side, believe that Nick Nurse makes a lot of sense. So talk to us about what it is about Nick Nurse that you like.
The thing about Nick Nurse, I like the fact that he's a winner, right? He won overseas in the British Basketball League. He won 2 titles in the G League, which was, at the time was known as the Developmental League, and he won a championship with the Toronto Raptors. But outside of that, yes, we all know he had Kawhi. Everybody in Philadelphia remembers that team because of the 4 bounces that eliminated the Sixers. But then the other years, it's like he was in the bubble. They were in the semifinals in the bubble, right? And then after that, they played the Sixers in the second round of playoffs. And outside of that Kawhi team, they really didn't have a lot of star power. They had Kyle Lowry, but outside of that, it was one of those things where they were just gritty guys who he had a bunch of role players, and he turned them into winners. So those are the attributes that I really like about Nick Nurse.
So do you feel like Nurse is the guy that can elevate some of the guys on this team beyond whatever the threshold was last year then?
I do. I mean, I feel like, he's kind of unconventional in his coaching style. He's a great gamesman or gamesmanship. And I feel like he's a guy that can come up with different things and basically surprise people, so to speak, or get people off guard. A lot of times in coaching, we all talk about adjustments, but then you always hear like a coach say, well, we know exactly what they're going to do. Sometimes with Nick Nurse, they don't know what he's going to do. And I think that's a huge factor for the Sixers.
When you think about the Sixers opening, obviously, if Nick Nurse doesn't get the job, someone's getting the job. For you, what is the biggest thing that the Sixers, they got to get right this offseason with this coaching hire? Like, what is the thing that you look at and say, I saw this last year, they got to fix this moving forward?
I mean, you got to fix how to, basically, I mean, I guess the one thing is, we had Joel Embiid. I mean, the one thing is Joel Embiid played great, right? But you got to get other people like Tobias Harris. You got to be able to enable him to feel like he's a part of the offense while Joel Embiid is dominating. You know what I mean? Or Tyrese Maxey is dominating. I feel like you have to be able to get everyone involved. One thing is defensively. I mean, I need to see some improvement with the perimeter defense. I do. Guys having more defined roles coming off the bench and doing stuff. So those are some of the things. But to me, basically, the one thing is, we've seen the 76ers win not Eastern Conference title, but having the best record coming out of the gate and the regular season, right? They did that in Doc Rivers' first year. We've seen the 76ers be able to come back and have 54 wins. But what we need to see from the Sixers is getting out of the second round. So to me, it's like we witnessed regular season success. To me, the biggest thing is like, what are you going to be able to do in the postseason? That's where the upgrade has to come from.
Keith Pompey covers the Sixers for the Philadelphia Inquirer. You can follow him on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers. Don't forget to check out his latest over at Inquirer.com. Keith, when we talk about getting out of that second round, how much is this offseason need to focus on doing to Embiid kind of what the Nuggets have done with Jokic, which is giving him the complementary talent around him? Because guess what? Jokic didn't get to an NBA Finals without Jamal Murray or without Aaron Gordon or without these other guys. He had all those guys to help him get there. Joel Embiid said himself, I can't do it by myself.
Well, the difference between the Denver Nuggets and the 76ers is that the Denver Nuggets in the past drafted well. And outside of Aaron Gordon, most of those guys are homegrown, right? I mean, for the most part, right? So, like, we got to scratch that. And then secondly, it's one of those things where, the the Sixers they don't really have any cap space. So it's going to be tough for them to go out there and say, unless Daryl Morey is able to pull off a miracle, it's going to be tough for them to go out there and say, we're going to go out here and get this guy that's going to help you, Joel. So that's why the coaching thing is extremely vital, to be able to go out there and get a coach that's able to get the best out of the roster that they have.
Tobias Harris obviously is a big part of the conversation for this offseason. If you had to put a percentage on it, how likely or unlikely it is for him to be back next season, your perspective?
You know what? I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, I think it might be 50-50 right about now. The thing is, if you're Tobias, you probably want to go somewhere where you're going to be more of a option, more involved in the offense. But the thing is, the good part about Tobias is getting traded is, like, at some point is he's in the final year of his deal, and there's going to want to be a team that's going to want to take him on. The problem is, if you trade him right now, I'm asking, like, I don't know if you can get something in return that's better than him at this particular time. And then also, if you're trying to trade him just to get rid of that salary and get something back, it's kind of like a team, a struggling team that has the cap space available is going to ask for a first-round draft pick. And the Sixers don't have any right now, and they can't trade one until 2029. So that's the problem that the 76ers have. And because I don't know if there's a player out there that you can get that can do more for you than Tobias can, that a team is willing to part ways with.
So it sounds like the people's hopes and dreams about a Tobias Harris for Pascal Siakam trade is you're saying that's a non-starter most likely.
Well, I don't know if I'm Toronto, I don't know if I'm trying to trade Pascal Siakam for Tobias Harris. The reason being is you got Pascal Siakam. Now, Tobias Harris is a good player, but you got Pascal Siakam, who's an all-star, right? A multi-year all-star. He's the face of the franchise. And, we're looking at Tobias Harris, who's probably making more money than him, right? He's making more money than him. And it's one of those things where, in addition to that, it's like he's not an all-star. And when you look at Pascal, you have to say that Pascal Siakam is a better player than Tobias. So it's like, I don't know if I'm Toronto if I want to make that deal unless I can get some draft picks and stuff like that. And you also, if you're Toronto, you got to be saying to yourself that we're just willing to give up on this guy. And he's like a homegrown all-star that you're willing to just part ways with. I don't know if I'm willing to do that.
Speaking of parting ways, Keith, you are one of the people who has confirmed reports about James Harden and the interest in going back to Houston. Obviously, as of May 25th, things can change in a month's time. But, what do you think is going to happen with Harden? Like, do you think it's going to be just a straight he'll sign with Houston if he goes there? Or do you think the Sixers could finagle a way to do a sign-in trade?
Now, I mean, my thing is, if I'm Houston, I don't even know if I want to do a sign and trade with the Sixers because the thing is, they have $60 million on cap and cap space. So, like, yeah, you may all right, let's see what we can do. But at the same time, like, to me, it's one of those things where, like, I can get James Harden straight up, and then I can try to do a signing trade and get another guy, so I have additional fees. Like, doing it when you have $60 million in cap space, it doesn't benefit you to do a sign and trade. You know what I mean? It just doesn't, especially where we're talking about is $8 million more. And then we talk about you're going to Houston where there's no state income tax. So you understand what I'm saying? It really doesn't benefit them to do that. I think that what we'll see is, like, if he goes, I mean, it seems like the sources I talked to said everybody expects him to go to Houston. So I think that if he did it, he'll go there and free agent as opposed to a sign and trade.
Yeah, because it almost feels like it's not an apples to apples, but it's like everyone knew Aaron Rodgers was going to the Jets. It was just a matter of when, more so than anything else. In this Harden situation, I mean, Keith, I got to tell you, I talked to a lot of Sixer fans. They are done with this guy. They want him gone.
Yeah, and I'm hearing the same thing. A lot of people do. But the problem with that is, we talked about they don't have the cap space. It's like, and James Harden, he was your best facilitator, your best ball handler, this and that. You lose a lot when you lose them. And you don't have the cap place to sufficiently replace them. So the Sixers are kind of like, dang if they keep them, dang if they lose them. You know what I mean?
Keith, before I let you go, I want to ask you about one more Sixer, and that is Tyrese Maxey. He's a guy that he's only 22 years old. I mean, he is still so young as a human being and as a ball player. I mean, this guy's probably a few years away from even being in his prime. What can we expect from him reasonably from last year to next year as his development comes along?
I would like to see his defense improve. I understand, I would like to see him. I mean, he's shown that he can shoot the three. He's shown that he can get out in transition. I think there's two things. The maturation for Tyrese Maxey would be become a better ball handler if you want him to be a one, right? If you want him to be a one, I don't think he's a one. But defensively, I think that's the area that he needs to concentrate on because it got to a point against elite teams in the playoffs, stuff like that, or elite teams, he was being attacked a little bit on the defensive end. And that's what led to him losing his starting position, right? So, to me, in order for Tyrese Maxey's maturation to be that type of player he wants to be, I think he needs to work on his defense.
He's Keith Pompey. Follow him on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers. Check out all of his coverage with the Sixers at Inquirer.com. And don't forget the Locked On 76ers podcast with him and Devon Givens. Keith, appreciate you jumping on today. Safe travels.
Thanks for having me, my man. Bye-bye.
Josh Hennig, filling for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. That last part about Maxey, I think, is so big what Keith said, because I was talking yesterday about how Maxey's defense is the thing that really differentiates him, because a couple people were texting in yesterday to the show about how you don't want to trade Maxey because you don't want to end up in the Drew Holiday situation. Whereas Holiday is an elite perimeter defender, and Holiday is a guy who does a great job at being a facilitator. Maxey doesn't have those two traits at this point in his career. So as Keith said, if Maxey can get the defense figured out, if Maxey can become a better defender, because right now Maxey is not a he doesn't have the fundamentals down. He doesn't have the basketball IQ down as a defender, but he has the athleticism to be a good defender. So it's about matching those things. I remember with Maxey coming out of Kentucky, Tyrese Maxey was not a good three-point shooter. And he has now become a legitimately reliable three-point shooter. You know, you go back to college, and obviously it's only 1 year, but his three-point shooting was under 30%. Okay? So you go from a guy who was under 30% as a three-point shooter, which is very unreliable, to now all of a sudden in the NBA, he goes from a 30% three-point shooter to a 43% last year. So the question is, if Maxey can make that kind of developmental jump as just a shooter, can he make the same type of developmental jump as a defender, as a ball handler? That's an interesting question. I don't know if I necessarily have the answer to that, but I tend to believe that Maxey is young enough and athletic enough that if he commits himself this offseason to becoming a better defensive player, to becoming a better, well-rounded athlete, that I think that he can be maybe not an elite defender, but a guy that you don't have to take off the floor in certain situations. Because as Keith Pompey said, there were a lot of situations where they took Maxey off the floor either as a starter or in late games because DeAnthony Melton was giving them more than when Maxey was giving them. And even if Melton is back here next year, there's no guarantee that Melton is going to be able to be that guy on the floor because as we saw in the postseason, he was hot and cold. Maxey is a much more reliable offensive player compared to Melton. Melton is a very streaky guy. He was great in game one of the series with the Celtics, and he was mediocre to basically unusable on offense the rest of the series. Whereas Maxey, for the most part, has always been a consistent offensive weapon. So it's like we sacrifice the offense or the defense. Well, Maxey can elevate his defensive game. It allows the Sixers not to have to sacrifice so much offensively. And maybe in turn, you know, you could have a lineup where it is Maxey, Melton on the floor together playing defense because Maxey is no longer a liability. We'll check on the text board one more time on the other side, 609-403-0973, your DMs in the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank. Seattle City still to come. We'll talk more NBA in the 5 o'clock hour with NBA insider Brandon Scoopy Robinson from Bally Sports. And, of course, coming up at top of 4 o'clock hour, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Andrew the Checo joins us as he does each Thursday here on the Sports Bash.
Sports is what we do.
0-2 on the way. Swinging a high fly. This is blasted out to deep right center field. Forget about it. Solo shot from Harper.
This is why we're number one for sports in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
With GMF financing, qualified buyers excludes Corvette.
At Bennett Chevrolet, we're selling new Chevys at real GM supplier employee prices and not 1 cent more. And you keep all the rebates. Not some. I said you keep all the rebates. Up to $8,000 right now during our Memorial Day super sale. Some dealers think they can imitate Bennett by giving you a discount, but they keep part or all the rebates. Bennett Chevy gives you both the real deal GM supplier employee price plus all the rebates, up to $8,000 during our Memorial Day super sale. And there's available 1.9% financing. Looking for used? Bennett will pay you a minimum $10,000 for any clunker, junker, or whatever you can drag to our lot towards any pre-owned in stock. That's at least $10,000. We pay a lot more for good trades. And unlike other dealers, our sales team is non-commissioned. They're paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. You've got to come experience the difference. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Mornings were made for better things than rheumatoid arthritis or RA. Xeljanz tofacitinib is a pill for adults with moderate to severe RA when tumor necrosis factor blockers did not work well or could not be tolerated. Xeljanz can help relieve joint pain, swelling, and help stop further joint damage. Xeljanz can lower your ability to fight infections. Don't start if you have one. Before and during treatment, your doctor should check for infections like TB and do blood tests. Serious, sometimes fatal infections, cancers including lymphoma and lung, blood clots, serious heart-related events, tears in the stomach or intestines, and allergic reactions have happened. People 50 and older with heart disease risk factors have an increased risk of death. Tell your doctor if you've had hepatitis B or C, have flu-like symptoms, are prone to infections, or have ever had a heart attack, stroke, clot, or other heart problems, or swelling of lips, tongue, throat, or hives. Ask your doctor about prescription Xeljanz. Visit Xeljanz.com or call 1-844-XELJANZ.
At the United States Postal Service, we're reinventing our network to help keep your business moving. With new shipping options to deliver better value, greater flexibility to conveniently reach your customers, more confident shipping with new informed delivery features, and new electric vehicles for a cleaner, brighter future. Fast, reliable, perfectly orchestrated. The United States Postal Service, delivering for America. Learn more at USPS.com/moving forward.
Kickstart summer savings now at the Home Depot. Get the yard in top shape for another season of doing with a Ryobi walk-behind mower for $349 only at the Home Depot. Featuring 40-volt battery compatibility for gas-like power to get the whole lawn looking fresh in just one charge. Plus, the 3-in-1 mowing function provides mulching, bagging, and side discharge capabilities right out of the box. Make your summer yard shine. Shop Ryobi walk-behind mowers for just $349 at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
One of the most influential names in comedy today, Andrew Schultz, will be live at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City, Saturday, July 29th. Known for his unapologetic and unsafe comedy, Andrew Schultz has become the most viewed comedian in the world. Don't miss Andrew Schultz live at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City, Saturday, July 29th. Tickets on sale Thursday, May 25th at 10 a.m. at theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older to wager or consume alcohol. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This far into rush hour traffic, most people would have rage accelerated at least once. But not you, Lacey No Hard Accelerations Ever Johnson. Because you are a safe driver. And like most drivers who sign up for Snapshot from Progressive, which customizes your rate for how and how much you drive, you earn a discount for your good driving. So if your hula dancing dashboard doll thinks you're going to hard accelerate because you're running late, then your hula dancing dashboard doll doesn't know. Lacey No Hard Accelerations Ever Johnson. Sign up for Snapshot today.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in all states or from all agents.
Carrie, is this schedule the most updated?
There's a wedding season rush at Dr. Iona's dental practice.
We're fully booked this week. We can try and squeeze you in next Tuesday.
She needs a dental hygienist to unveil fresh smiles. Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
The ADCO Thrill Show, Saturday, June 3rd at the ADCO Dragway on Jackson Road in ADCO. Tickets are $25 for adults and just $1 for kids ages 5 through 10. Find more at ADCODragway.rocks.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
All right, wrapping up 3 o'clock hour here. Josh and I playing for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget to keep sending your messages in to qualify for your chance to see Shane Gillis' comedy show at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. A couple more pairs to give away. Gave away 2 yesterday, 2 more to give away today here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Before we get the break, Damian in Dover chimes in on the 97.3 ESPN mobile apps. Hey, Josh, I love the show. Just wondering, of all the top coaches available for hire, who, in your opinion, is least likely to get hired and not have a head coaching spot come season start? That's a great question. Who is least likely? My gut instinct right now would be Mike D'Antoni because he's really only rumored for one job. The only job he is rumored for is the Sixers job. Doc Rivers has already interviewed for the Suns job. Nick Nurse has interviewed for at least 3 jobs we know about. So my working assumption is that he's probably the least likely. And then I hate saying this, but I think the second least likely is Sam Cassell. Everything that I've read from Jake Fisher at Yahoo Sports to Shams at the Athletic, everyone keeps saying that Charles Lee, the Bucks assistant, Kenny Atkinson, the Warriors assistant, former head coach, and then Adrian Griffin, who was the Raptors assistant, they're all getting a ton of traction, and Cassell is not. And I think it's very unfair to Sam Cassell. I think Sam Cassell is a very, very good coaching candidate, but it seems like he's not getting. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's an interview issue or whatever it is. He's not drawing interest from people. Football 4 next.
This weekend on ESPN Radio, it's a showdown in the National League East.
Kyle Schwarber, and this place is going bananas.
Kyle Schwarber and the Philadelphia Phillies begin a 10-game road trip in Atlanta when they go head-to-head against the NL East leading Braves. The Philadelphia 2.9% financing and 0 down payment. Plus Matt Blatt Mitsubishi's 4-day love it or leave it return policy. You simply can't make a mistake or take $9,000 off MSRP with a PHEV lease on every unit in stock. Simply Matt Blatt Mitsubishi. Offers approved with Tier 1 credit through Ally Financial. Go to mattblattmitsubishi.com for complete details. Plus tax, license, registration fees. MSRP $47.4, less $1,500 rebate to $1,600 tax credit. And dealer discount of $1,273. Offers can't be combined. Expires 6/5/22. So come in today and get your deal your way. Located right in the heart of Glassboro for over 30 years.
New Jersey is the little state with big opinions, especially when it comes to the name of our iconic breakfast meat. But the debate can finally be won. Play the New Jersey Lottery's new scratch-offs, the Jersey Debate, name that meat, for the chance to win up to $200,000. Anything can happen in Jersey.
A town square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN, home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
He is hit. He stumbles. He's down.
WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. 97.3 ESPN presents the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with 97.3 ESPN.com's Andrew DeCecco.
My first allegiance is what will be best for the Philadelphia Eagles and our fans for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Blatt Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill here in the 4 o'clock hour on 97.3 ESPN. Football at 4. Andrew DeCecco joins the show each Thursday. Catch all of his work covering the Eagles and the NFL draft over at InsideTheBirds.com. We'll ask him about the Eagles, the 53-man roster, and more. Plus, we'll get his thoughts on what DeAndre Hopkins said about Jalen Hurts, all here as we're counting down the hours to the start of Memorial Day weekend here in South Jersey on a Football at 4. Andrew, welcome back in. How you doing today?
Josh, I'm doing well, man. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you. So I want to start with, I know we talked about it with Moshe a little bit yesterday. I want to get your perspective as well. So for those who don't know all the details, DeAndre Hopkins was asked who are his quarterbacks he would love to throw him the ball. Well, he named 5 guys, and Jalen Hurts was among the 5. So how do you read into a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who's never played with Jalen Hurts, saying, I want that guy throwing me the ball?
Well, I think he's seen firsthand the exponential growth of a quarterback in Jalen Hurts, who really has made such a monumental leap that you really don't see in the NFL from his second to third season starting. And I think the arrow is trending up with Jalen Hurts, and he sees that. And there's a plethora of talent surrounding him, and he's able to make best use of them. And like I said, the offense really just accentuates what he does well. And I think that a new offensive coordinator in Brian Johnson is going to further his development. So all those things combined, yeah, I think most receivers would want to play with somebody like Jalen Hurts, who's a top 3 quarterback in the NFL right now.
That's interesting. You said top 3 quarterback. The question we've been asking throughout the show is he a top 5? So why do you put Hurts in the top 3, whereas maybe somebody else would say the 3 is Mahomes, Allen, Burrow? What you're saying is I'm taking one of those 3 out of your list, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I have Mahomes, and then I have Joe Burrow, and then I have Jalen Hurts. I can't put Josh Allen in front of Jalen Hurts right now. Jalen Hurts has delivered in the postseason, and on the game's biggest stage, he answered the bell. And Josh Allen hasn't proven that he's able to elevate his team to that level. I've seen Jalen Hurts put a team on his back, literally in the Super Bowl, and will it to happen and make things happen. And I've seen some special things from him last season that it's kind of hard to put somebody who hasn't accomplished what he has in front of him. So he's number 3 for me right now.
When you talk about, these different players, right? These quarterbacks, how important is it to you, Andrew, that I said earlier, this is my perspective on Hurts. I think what differentiates him for me is he doesn't turn the ball over. He doesn't force his team into bad situations. And I think that is one of the most underrated parts of his game. So yeah, he might not be throwing for 5,000 yards, but he's also not throwing you 15, 20 interceptions.
Yeah, exactly. And a side note for Josh Allen, for as electrifying of a player as he is, he's also much more careless with the football and his body, by the way. So there's all these different things that you can look at. And I just think that when his team needed him the most, he didn't necessarily come out on top, whereas Jalen Hurts moved the offense forward and propelled the Eagles to really they had the Chiefs on the brink there in the Super Bowl. So I think that Jalen Hurts has to be a top 3 quarterback in many people's minds.
What do you say to the people who say, hey, Jalen only did it for 1 year? How can I say a guy is top 5 after only 1 season? What do you say to those people?
Well, I mean, that's other quarterbacks that have been deemed top players at their positions after 1 season. But I think a lot of variables go into that, Josh, and you have to look at the progression. Some of the things that he was doing, he was making some very difficult throws. I mean, I can think of the 2 to Dallas Goedert that very few quarterbacks in the NFL can make, those throws on a rope and in tight coverage. And just his ability to win and his the work ethic that he puts into his preparation. Like he's the quintessential ambassador for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think a lot of teams would like to have a guy like Jalen Hurts who's going to do whatever it takes to maximize his potential and ensure that he puts the team in the best position to be successful. And I think when you look at all those different facets, I think that you're going to continue. They all tend to believe that you're going to see a quarterback that's going to continuously improve each season, as long as he can stay healthy.
You mentioned the stay healthy part. Somebody texted into the show earlier and they said that, they're a little concerned that Hurts might be a hit away from a serious injury. How do you rate the injury concern with Hurts? Because my thing is, I think Hurts has done a pretty good job at avoiding big hits, unlike a Josh Allen who's trying to run people over because he is 6'5", 240.
Well, every quarterback's a hit away from a serious injury, right? I mean, Nick Sirianni said it best. They didn't sign Jalen Hurts to that contract. They didn't pay him more for him to do less. And what makes him special is his elusiveness outside the pocket and his physicality in goal line situations and short yardage. And I think that they're going to continue to utilize that aspect of his game. And I really don't think that he is that careless with how he utilizes his body. I think that he gets out of bounds when needed. He fights for extra yards when it calls for it. And I think that overall he's been really smart in how he protects himself. So that's not really a big concern for me. Those big hits and things like that can happen to any quarterback. And I think the Chicago injury was just sort of a fluke. I mean, it was sort of how he landed and how he fell. But I mean, up to that point, Josh, he's eluded many serious hits. So I think that he's one of the smarter running quarterbacks in how he alleviates and how he's able to alleviate some of those bigger hits.
We're talking with Andrew. Check out for today's football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And InsideTheBirds.com is where you find Andrew's latest article where he talks about 3 under-the-radar candidates for the Eagles' 53-man roster. And there's 2 I want to focus in on specifically with you, Andrew. I want to first start with Josh Jobe, because Jobe is a guy, he's a holdover from last year, and he was a guy that people had hopes for. They weren't sure what he could do, but he played a lot of special teams last year. Is he a guy that in your mind is turning into that reliable special teams player on a team like the Eagles that, for lack of a better term, values special teams more than other teams?
Yeah, it's no secret that I'm a big Josh Jobe guy. I was throughout his career at Alabama. He had a down year coming out. Prior to that, I had him as a higher draft pick, and it just never happened. But I think the Eagles have good value there as a developmental prospect. He has very long arms. I think he could be a little bit more potentially than a special teamer at least for some teams that aren't as deep at the position as the Eagles are. But I think that he really acquitted himself well as a gunner opposite Zach McPherson. He played over 200 snaps on special teams, 76% for the season in those 11 games when he was healthy and active. But he's just a physical player. He plays with urgency. I think he offers positional versatility. And when you're looking at some of the players that he could be directly competing against in camp, namely Greedy Williams, you have to wonder, where does Greedy Williams, is he going to be able to contribute in the third phase? I don't know that he can in the way that Josh Jobe can. So to me, I think that's going to be an interesting battle to watch because many just want to pencil in Greedy Williams to make the roster. But and when you're looking at the fifth and sixth spots potentially for at any position, you have to be able to contribute in the third phase. And Greedy Williams is going to have to prove that he can do that.
What do you think Sean Desai's role could potentially be in Josh Job's development? Because we know that Desai, I forgot his name for a moment. Desai, he has a long special teams and defensive backs coaching background. So how do you think that might influence things for Job this upcoming training camp?
Yeah, I think that sort of favors him going into camp, knowing that he's a younger player. He has a year. He's been in the league for a year. He's established himself on special teams. He was one of the very few bright spots on a B-leaguer special teams unit last year. And I think that he also offers positional versatility, whether it be as a potential nickel, but I think even more so as a safety. So you add value there potentially. Obviously, if he makes the team as the sixth, he wouldn't really be called upon to play defense unless there was a litany of injuries there. But I think that you have something worth developing there in Josh Job, and he could force the Eagles' hands to keep six players at the cornerback position, which is very heavy. But I think his special teams prowess may sort of dictate that.
You mentioned Greedy Williams. We can touch on him for a moment. I mean, this is a guy who was a college All-American. He led the SEC in interceptions, right? And his NFL career just hasn't really worked out due to injuries and other things. What is a realistic expectation for Eagle fans? Because, Andrew, Eagle fans, they see a name they recognize, they get excited, whether that guy can bring anything to the table or not, they get excited.
Exactly. And, you like the name. I like Greedy Williams coming out of LSU, but when you look at his sample size, I mean, he hasn't had the cleanest bill of health. And I mean, his play has been up and down largely during his time with the Browns. So you look at the guaranteed money, there's very little guaranteed money allocated to Greedy Williams, which would tend to indicate that the Eagles aren't overly confident that he could be, you don't want to etch him in stone as making the roster. He's going to have to prove himself. But you look at the limited special teams experience, you look at the modest guaranteed money, and I think that you see a player that, despite having a name and having some pedigree, he's going to have to fight for a spot on this roster. He's, buried in the pecking order here. And let's not even forget Zach McPherson, who's also going to be in that conversation as well. So Greedy Williams has a bit of an uphill battle, I would think, at least, to make the roster.
If you had to look at if Greedy Williams was making the roster, do you think his future long-term is as an outside corner or as something else? Because I always wondered, was Greedy Williams a guy who might eventually become that, jack of all trades DB kind of player?
No, I view him as an outside corner strictly. He doesn't have a ton of size that would indicate somebody that can hold up for a 17-game slate. So I think for me, you like his length, you like his fluidity and athleticism as an outside player. Mm-hmm. But again, when you're looking at it as a back end of the roster type of player, you want to have versatility, which, provides optionality to a defensive coordinator. And if you can't contribute on special teams, then where is your active, how can you justify keeping him active on game day? So it would kind of be, kind of pointless. He's on a 1-year deal as it is. So he's going to have to acquit himself on special teams, I would think, to make an impression and make the roster.
The other guy you wrote about, I want to ask you about, is Tyler Zentner. And I was talking with Mosher about this on yesterday's Football at 4. The Sipos situation is just so odd because Sipos is, for all other purposes, feels like he's like a pretty average punter in this league. And you thought when they brought in Brett Kern, he'd be better, and he wasn't as good as you hoped. And then Sipos played and did what he did in the biggest game of the year. And now you got Tyler Zentner, who is this, for lack of a better term, almost like a phenom coming out of college. And it almost feels like, well, if he can't beat Sipos, then there's no hope for the Eagles punting situation.
Well, I think it's important to temper expectations. I can remember a number of years ago, a guy named Kerry Spear, who had the nickname Murder Leg, who I don't even know that he made it through the early stages of training camp, but there was a lot of, he had a highlight tape and he was known to have this big leg and things like that, and it just never materialized. So you don't want to put too much pressure on an undrafted player. But I think that in Zentner's case, there's going to be a legitimate opportunity for him to push Sipos off the roster. He also doubles as a kickoff specialist, in which he did for 3 years at Kansas State. I think he was perfect. He was perfect on his field goal opportunities. I think he had a long of 53. He landed 27 of his punts last year inside the 20. And, I mean, he has a lot of upside. And I don't think that he agreed to come to the Eagles just to be a camp body. I think that there was an understanding and a mutual agreement that he was going to have a legitimate opportunity to push for a spot here. And I think you're going to see it take shape in camp.
Oh, is there anything more oxymoron than a guy who goes to a school like Vanderbilt and his nickname is Murder Leg?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I'm
think
just
so.
saying,
And then
it's like
also, Janarius Robinson's another player that I mentioned also as someone that, as a dark horse that could potentially push for a roster spot.
Absolutely, yeah. Folks can read more about Robinson over at InsideTheBirds.com. But with the punting situation, I'm trying to figure out what's going on here, Andrew, because Matt Ariza, he gets cleared of all the charges. He's totally clear. The Jets bring him in for a workout. I'm just kind of sitting here like, well, the Eagles could have brought him in for a workout. Like, are they that committed to the Sipos Zentner competition? They wouldn't even bring in somebody else to even give him a look?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, maybe there was it was a money thing. Like, there's a team that's gonna, maybe he likes the situation better at another team and the Eagles don't want to work him out, and he doesn't want to entertain a workout with the Eagles, who already have 2 punters. He could be looking for a more favorable destination. I'm not quite sure, but I think the Eagles are comfortable, based on what we've seen, that they're comfortable in the head-to-head competition that's going to take shape this summer. And I really do think that Zentner is going to have a fair shake to push Sipos off the roster. And for the Eagles, I mean, you might be wondering, give Sipos a chance of redemption this summer. Was it a fluke? Is that a sign of things to come? Is this who he really is? So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered this summer. And I think that it's good not to just hand him the job because he's the veteran incumbent. I think bringing in somebody who was a pretty prestigious undrafted player, one of the cream of the crop as far as undrafted players go this year, I think bringing in somebody like that shows you that they're serious about giving him some run for his money.
Speaking of positions of battles coming up, the Eagles did work out somebody this week, DJ Fluker, the former first-round pick. He's played tackle and guard. We know a lot of Eagle fans. I was telling Mosher yesterday, Andrew, every time I run into Eagle fans, they ask me about right guard. I've not met a single Eagle fan that's not asked me about right guard in the last couple months. And Fluker is a guy with a lot of experience, but he hasn't played for a couple years. So what are your thoughts on Fluker coming in for a workout?
Yeah, I get asked about the right guard spot a lot too. That's interesting workout because he's played a lot of football. He's logged a ton of snaps. A lot of them have been at right tackle and guard. He's had about 300, I believe, at left tackle, if I'm correct on that. But a versatile player. Obviously, he hasn't played in 2 years, but the familiarity is there with Jeff Stoutland. And the Eagles really do need to add some veteran depth, I think, at least, on the offensive line. I think they lost a crucial piece there in Andre Dillard, which didn't look like much on the surface. But when you have somebody you can know that you can competently plug in at left tackle, should something happen, right tackle in a flux, that's not his strong suit. But just having somebody that you can rely on and put somebody there that's played games before at a relatively high level was sort of comforting if you're the Eagles. They don't have a ton right now. Jack Driscoll is in all likelihood going to be your swing tackle, and the only other pure guard, I believe, that is on the roster is Sua Opeta. Brett Toth is a player who can play guard, and he's a tackle as well. So I think adding a veteran there is really important, especially for a team that prioritizes the trenches like the Eagles do.
Do you think Fluker is a guy who makes sense then for what you're talking about? Because I know that one of the criticisms of him has been his technique in dipping the head a lot. You think that is something that can be worked out with Stoutland, or do you think that because he hasn't played in a couple of years that maybe it's a little too much of an uphill battle?
Stoutland University, Josh. I would bring him in, and
you're a believer,
and have full confidence that they can rekindle that relationship that they had back at Alabama, and Jeff Stoutland's going to get the most out of them as he does any offensive lineman that's come through there. He maximizes their potential. There's countless success stories down the line. So I think the familiarity could help. And also, this is a guy that's played a ton of snaps. So, and he should be fresh after not playing for 2 years. So it certainly can't hurt to bring him in.
Andrew DeCecco, believer in Stoutland University here on Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Check out Andrew's latest Count Them In at InsideTheBirds.com. Get the full write-up on Ty Zentner, Josh Jobe, and Janarius Robinson. Andrew, great stuff today. Appreciate you jumping on. Have a safe weekend, my friend.
You bet, Josh. Talk soon.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. One thing he mentioned there at the end with Fluker I thought was interesting was he mentioned the fact that Fluker hasn't played in a couple of years, so Fluker's legs might be more fresh and his body might be more fresh than somebody else. And you have to wonder if you're not asking Fluker, let's say Fluker doesn't start the season, but he becomes one of your primary backups as a swing guard tackle guy, does that open the door for Driscoll to be the starting guard on week 1? Like, think about it this way. Driscoll last season was your primary swing guy between guard and tackle in different situations. He played when he was asked to, wherever he had to play a lot of times. So if Driscoll goes into camp and he is given an opportunity to be the starting right guard, does Fluker's value becomes the new Driscoll? Because Driscoll has never been not injured. The big knock against Driscoll is he has constantly been injured from college and the NFL. So if he is a guy who would potentially win the starting job at guard, is he somebody who comes to Philadelphia and basically becomes the de facto backup for Jack Driscoll potentially getting injured? Again, I'm not hoping it happens to Driscoll. I'm not saying it will happen to Driscoll one way or the other. I'm just saying it's something to think about, that Fluker's value may be allowing a more a better right guard competition in camp between Juergens and Driscoll, and maybe Fluker does get involved in that competition. It'll be interesting to see if he does get the official camp invite and what happens there. All right, coming up next, more of your texts on the other side, 609-403-0973. And Brian Windhorst says this head coaching job may be the best in the NBA. You'll hear what he has to say next, and we'll get your reactions to it. Don't forget, when you text in with your name, you have a chance to qualify to win Shane Gillis comedy show tickets at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City.
You haven't downloaded the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app? Well, go get it now to follow all the Philly sports teams at 97.3ESPN.com. Powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Don't miss Andrew Schultz live at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City, Saturday, July 29th. Tickets on sale now at theoceanac.com.
Turn your home into restricted airspace. Tell incoming flights you want them diverted. The new Raid Essentials Light Trap plugs into the wall and uses light to attract, then trap flying insects like fruit flies and mosquitoes. Its 24/7 continuous attraction provides insecticide-free protection that's people and pet friendly. Consider air service interrupted. New Raid Essentials Light Trap. Insecticide-free protection.
Summer's heating things up, outside and on the grill. Whether you're smoking a brisket or grilling up veggies, Kingsford Original Charcoal delivers the consistent performance and smoky wood-fired flavor barbecuers crave. Kingsford Original lights faster and has a long burn time, giving you the ultimate grilling experience. So grab a bag of Kingsford Original Charcoal. Kingsford.com. Kingsford Original Charcoal lights faster and delivers consistent performance compared to nationally available charcoal in the USA.
The 2024 X5 has arrived at BMW of Atlantic City. Take advantage of early bird pricing on one of the most highly anticipated vehicles of the year. Right now, lease a new 2024 BMW X5 xDrive 40i for $939 a month for 36 months. Looking to trade? We'll pay top dollar for your vehicle. Visit BMW of Atlantic City, closer than you think. Located in Egg Harbor Township and online at bmwatlanticcity.com. For more details, call us toll free at 609-316-2393.
Mornings were made for better things than rheumatoid arthritis or RA. Xeljanz tofacitinib is a pill for adults with moderate to severe RA when tumor necrosis factor blockers did not work well or could not be tolerated. Xeljanz can help relieve joint pain, swelling, and help stop further joint damage. Xeljanz can lower your ability to fight infections. Don't start if you have one. Before and during treatment, your doctor should check for infections like TB and do blood tests. Serious, sometimes fatal infections, cancers including lymphoma and lung, blood clots, serious heart-related events, tears in the stomach or intestines, and allergic reactions have happened. People 50 and older with heart disease risk factors have an increased risk of death. Tell your doctor if you've had hepatitis B or C, have flu-like symptoms, are prone to infections, or have ever had a heart attack, stroke, clot, or other heart problems, or swelling of lips, tongue, throat, or hives. Ask your doctor about prescription Xeljanz. Visit Xeljanz.com or call 1-844-XELJANZ.
The Dell Technologies Summer Sale event starts now with limited quantity deals on select performance PCs with Windows 11 Pro. Save on select Vostro laptops with built-in security features and select Latitude laptops with enhanced privacy, collaboration, and connectivity. Save on essential accessories, plus free shipping and special financing with Dell Business Credit. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL. Offered to business customers by WebBank, who determines qualifications for and terms of credit.
1 in 4 car batteries is weak and needs to be replaced. Let our professional parts people test your battery for free at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Powered by NJM. No jingles or mascots, just great insurance. This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
I'm Josh Hennig with your South Jersey Sports Center. The Phillies won in dramatic fashion on Wednesday afternoon thanks to a big home run by Trey Turner and a walk-off RBI by Alec Bohm in the 6-5 victory. The Phillies will now travel to Atlanta for a 4-game series that begins tonight, with Aaron Nola scheduled to start first pitch at 7:20. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport confirmed reports that former first-round pick DJ Fluker worked out for the Eagles this week. Fluker has started games at tackling guard for the Chargers, Giants, Seahawks, and Ravens over the course of 8 seasons. Get more Eagles, Phillies, Sixers, and Flyers on our app. Your forecast is next.
0 down, 0% financing, and $7,000 off MSRP on every clearly marked Matt Blatt Nissan in stock.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Stuck in a loan or lease? AJ the Trade Man can get you released, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, with 0 down and 0% financing on every Nissan Rogue for 36 months, even 0% for 60 months, plus $7,000 off MSRP on every Nissan Titan in stock. And don't forget, AJ, the Trade Man, will get you more for your trade, so you can drive a brand new Nissan. And of course, the Matt Blatt Nissan Peace of Mind. 4-day love it or leave it return policy. Only at MattBlattNissan.com. On approved Tier 1 credit through NEMAC. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle plus tax tag and $589 doc fee. Offers can't be combined. Call 877-289-6670 or go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 6/3/2023. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike. Egg Harbor Township.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Bottom line for the big Memorial Day weekend, rain chances limited, cloud cover abundant, and temperatures will transition from springy 70s to summer-like 80s by Monday. Clear and chilly tonight, low 48. Tomorrow, a nice day, mostly sunny and 69. Sun and clouds, probably dry on Saturday, high of 70. Best chance of a shower will be Sunday, mostly cloudy and 67. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
Sail into summer in New Jersey, where sea breezes drift along iconic sunny shores, stroll boardwalks, or soar high on the rides. Take time out to breathe in the great outdoors. Treat yourself, shop, dine, dive into history, the arts, and culture, from dazzling winning cities to charming towns in the countryside. Find it all at visitnj.org.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
ESPN FM. Don't forget the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Still to come, we'll be talking NBA with NBA insider Brandon Scoopy Robinson from Valley Sports. We'll get his perspective on the NBA playoffs and the Sixers head coaching search. Also, you're still taking your text throughout the show, 609-403-0973. We'll get back to the poll results for Jalen Hurts. Is he a top 5 quarterback? And your thoughts on that in just a little bit. But right now, we usually do sound of the day this time on the Sports Bash. And today, Brian Windhorst had a very interesting explanation on ESPN TV this morning. And they were having a conversation about what is the best head coaching job. Like, if you have to choose any job, what would you choose? And Windhorst took a very, very different angle on this. And I don't know if I necessarily agree or disagree with him, because I think there were parts of what he said that made sense and other parts that I think that was a bit of a reach. So I want to play this cut for you guys, because I want you guys to react to as well as I do what Brian Windhorst says about what is the best head coaching job, because he doesn't really answer the question overtly. He more so explains how the coaches think about these jobs. And I think it's an interesting point to bring up, because we talked about Nick Nurse in the last hour. He's potentially a finalist for the Suns and Bucks jobs, and he's already interviewed for the Sixers. So he at least has 3 jobs that he is in the conversation for. So if you're Nick Nurse, how are you looking at these jobs? And this is Brian Windhorst this morning on First Take explaining how head coaches could be looking at these jobs.
I think when you look at situations like this, if you're a coach that has options, and that's very rare for a coach to have options at a high level, but these are high level jobs. I think one of the things you're looking at is ownership, and specifically the stability and depth of the pockets of the ownership. And so there's, in some of these cases, there's a little bit of uncertainty. You know, Milwaukee, they just had a change in ownership. Jimmy Haslam just bought a big piece of the team, and he will take over, you know, eventually as the governor of the team. Wes Edens just stepped in to be the governor of the team. It's a little bit uncertain how they're going to work together and whether they're willing to spend. I think Matt Ishbia in Phoenix is potentially a great NBA owner. However, you know, there is an uncertainty there. He has not been in the job long, and he has shown incredible aggression since he's been in that position. Number one, with the Durant trade, and then, you know, moving away from Monty Williams, who has a great track record. I think when you see something like that, you're a little bit uncertain. You know, maybe a different conversation about Ishbia in a couple of years when you have more of a track record. So I actually think that Philadelphia, from an ownership standpoint, has the most stability. Toronto does too. They have great ownership, but it's a little bit unclear as to what their future, their short-term path is going to be. With Philadelphia, you know, with Joel Embiid under contract, that they're going to go to win. And Joshua Harris and David Blitzer have shown good, strong leadership there. They're stable and they're deep-pocketed. I mean, Josh Harris is in the process of buying the Washington Commanders. So I think that you'd consider ownership if you have multiple options here, because I do think ownership is one of the most important things, specifically having a stable hand there.
So there was a lot there, and we'll recap it here, because he specifically brings up the Suns, the Bucks, the Raptors, and the Sixers. And he explains in that whole picture that, you know, the problem with the Bucks is who's really in charge. The problem with the Raptors is what's the direction of the franchise. The problem with the Suns is, you know, is the owner a little too aggressive of an owner? You know, almost like, does he have a George Steinbrenner streak in him? And then you have the Sixers, where, at least the way Windhorst described it, it kind of feels like the Sixers are more of, we hire you, we let you do your job ownership. And so if the perspective of a guy looking for a job in the NBA, like Nick Nurse, I'm using him specifically because we had Keith Pompey on the last hour, and Pompey took the position that, hey, if I was the Sixers, I would hire Nick Nurse. And there's a lot of people who think very well of Nick Nurse, or people who don't like Nick Nurse necessarily. But if you're Nurse, what do you think? You're the one who could potentially have 3 offers on the table. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to get offered a job by all 3 teams, but he's obviously a man of interest in all 3 of those organizations. And the way Windhorst described it was that the Sixers are the most stable job in terms of organizational structure and environment. So if the Sixers are the most stable and appealing job for all of these head coaches this offseason, then couldn't we argue that the Sixers have no excuse to mess this up? And I think that's where my problem with what Windhorst said was, is that he's putting it out there like the Sixers are the most stable. Are they, though? Just because you have a clear direction with where the franchise is going doesn't necessarily mean that everything is in working order with the franchise. And I think the larger point is, what do these coaches value? I just mentioned that Josh Harris is a guy who basically hires people and just tells them to go do a job. Is that always the right thing to do? In Philadelphia, we have seen different types of owners. And I think a lot of people at this point, whether they are joking or serious, look at Jeffrey Lurie as the best owner in the city. And they even joke that maybe Lurie should be the guy hiring the next Sixers head coach. But the reason why we think that way about Lurie is because Lurie has consistently been putting out the message that we want to win championships in Philadelphia. And now they have reached 3 Super Bowl appearances. They've won 1 out of 3, but they've reached 3 during Jeffrey Lurie's ownership. In that same time period, the only other teams that have won more championships in the NFC than the Eagles are the Giants. Notice I didn't say anything else. Oh, that's right, because there's no other teams winning multiple championships in the NFC. 49ers have been there multiple times, haven't won. Seahawks have been there twice, won once. Saints got there once, they won it. Panthers have been there twice, haven't won it. Giants have at least been there like the Eagles 3 times, and they got 2 out of it. Washington hasn't been there. The Rams, they won, but they lost the other one in the last 20 years. The last time the Rams won a championship before most recently, it was actually the 99 season. So, okay, the Rams, but it's not in the last 20 years. Lurie's done it in the last 20 years with this organization. There is a clear level of success that has been dictated by the Philadelphia Eagles. So when you look over to the Sixers, the Phillies, and the Flyers, there is this graded curve now. So when you look at the ownership of the Sixers, do we really believe that Sixers ownership could be the selling point for these head coaches? Now, according to Windhorst, it is. Now, Brian covers the NBA. Brian's been around a lot of owners. Brian has had the unique perspective of his primary cover source for years was LeBron James. And you look at the people that LeBron has dealt with, from the wacky Cavs owner to the I just let Pat Riley run everything owner down in Miami. Then he goes back to Cleveland. Then he goes to the Lakers, where Jeannie Buss is as invested in the team's success as any owner in the NBA. So if you look at a guy like LeBron and see his interactions with these owners, and then you translate that to the rest of the league, and you see the fact that Josh Harris is probably more in line with Mickey Arison down in Miami than he is with the other owners around the league, does that make you feel encouraged as a Sixer fan that NBA owners could be the deciding factor in how some of these coaches view these jobs? I think there's a lot of Sixer fans who don't like Josh Harris. I think that they look at him as a guy who's not fully invested in the organization because he has all these other business properties in the sports world. There's when he bought the Devils and now they bought the Washington, there's a lot of Philadelphia sports fans who kind of give him the side eye, like, dude, why are you buying teams in our division? Why are you buying teams in our area? And to which I would also say that, Josh Harris doesn't really care about your fandom. He cares about making money. And for a guy like him to have the opportunity to own an NFL team, he tried to buy the Denver Broncos, but there was obviously some speculation, and the speculation has been never, the rumors were never confirmed as anything true, but there was a lot of speculation that the Denver Broncos sale was done in a bit of a shady manner, because the reports were is that Josh Harris wanted to get into a bidding war for the Broncos job, but that the people who were handling the Broncos sale did not want to tell him and didn't want to give him the opportunity to match any bids, that they instead just went through a process and just had blind bidding, and they eventually gave it to the Walton Group. So, by the way, that is the people who also own Walmart, for those who are wondering. So the people who own Walmart now own the Denver Broncos. And mostly because Josh Harris got, some people perceive, I don't know if it's never been completely corroborated, it has not been literally confirmed, but there's a lot of, rumor that basically it was kind of an inside track that the Walton family had to buy the team. So Harris has been trying to buy an NFL team for a while. So it wasn't him necessarily buying the Washington, to, spite Phillies sports fans. He just was wanting to buy an NFL team. So then, as Windhorst said, he now owns multiple teams. He is considered a successful, stable owner, whereas the other owners don't have that type of business structured, stable track record. And I also thought it was interesting what he said about Matt Ishbia. Ishbia, it's a catch-22, because on one hand, he never liked Monty Williams, according to reports, and then he fired Monty Williams. He wanted him gone as soon as possible, and the GM, Jones, basically got put to a rock and a hard place because Jones and Williams have a great relationship, but the new owner, Ishbia, and the reason why he got the ownership of the Suns was in part because people wanted Robert Sarver out of Phoenix. They were so desperate to get Sarver and his, toxic work environment out of the Phoenix Suns building and properties and environment. They wanted to change the environment altogether. So they were so desperate to get a new owner in there, and Ishbia became, the best person to sell the team to. Then all of a sudden what happens is that now he walks in and says, I don't like that guy. It's like when somebody buys a business and you have somebody who is a well-known person at that business, and the new owner says, I don't like that guy. Well, he's one of the best people here. I don't like him. If he doesn't improve in the next few months, I'm going to find a reason to get rid of him. That's what he did. So if you're an NBA head coach, do you feel better that Ishbia says you're my guy and Monty Williams wasn't my guy when Monty Williams got you to an NBA championship just a couple of years ago? Or do you look at it as, do I want to work for a crazy person? Do I want to work for a person who is fighting with Nikola Jokic over a basketball on the sidelines of an NBA game? Like, is that who I want my owner to be? The Milwaukee Bucks situation is just, for those who don't, I'm going to try to explain it the best I can. All right. Basically, teams like the Milwaukee Bucks have an ownership structure where, they don't have a majority ownership. Like Josh Harris's group has the largest stake of the team, the Harris Blitzer group. And there's a bunch of people who have minority stakes in the team but they don't have the majority. Josh Harris is what's called the controlling owner. A team like Milwaukee has a couple of owners who each of them basically take turns running the team, being the controlling governor of the team, operations, final say. So if you are a what's it called? If you are an NBA head coach, do you worry that if you get hired by the one owner when he's controlling a team, that the next owner controlling a team may not want you? Again, it's a conundrum. Okay. What do these head coaches value? Do they value the stability of ownership, or do they value something else? So it's an interesting question by Windhorst, and I wanted to bring it to you guys because if Windhorst is saying the Sixers are the most appealing head coaching job because of their ownership, do we have to change our perception of the Sixers ownership, or do we still look at Sixers ownership as, hey, the Eagles created the standard. Now live up to the standard or else? Let me know how you feel. 609-403-0973. That's the text board. You also can DM the show through the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Don't forget, if you text in, leave your name for your opportunity to win tickets to go see Shane Gillis' comedy show at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. We'll talk more NBA in the next hour with NBA insider Brandon Scoop B. Robinson. Plus, we'll get more of your messages on, is Jalen Hurts a top 5 quarterback? Yes or no? I'll give you the latest on the poll results on the other side. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN.
From the beach,
the beaches are open and people are having a wonderful time,
to the ballpark.
Swing and a high fly ball, left field. That one is back. Gone. Harper delivers.
We've got you covered. The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
What dealer has new Kias under 25 grand and only 2.9% financing?
Who is Matt Blatt Kia?
What dealer will pay off your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth?
Who is Matt Blatt Kia?
Correct. Have a job clearing $350 per week? Matt Blatt Kia in Egg Harbor Township or Toms River wants to approve you. New 2023 Kia Forte or Soul, 0 down and just 2. Remaining factory warranty, and they must go to make room for new Kias arriving daily. Just because you don't see your new Kia on the lot doesn't mean you can't be driving it home tomorrow with our exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
With approved credit, not all will qualify. $27.78 per thousand financed. Go to mattblattkia.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes. Expires 5/31/23. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Texting enrolls you in recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Leaving for the gym so early?
I'm ready to go.
Since you started taking Nugenix Total T, you've been acting like when we met in our 20s.
I feel like myself again. Lower testosterone after turning 40 slowed me down. Nugenix Total T has been a game changer for me.
What is it about Nugenix Total T that's different?
Well, it's a patented key ingredient called testofen. It boosts free and total testosterone to help you get back the drive and energy from your youth. It's backed by 5 clinical studies.
I've seen the huge difference it's made for you in the gym, at work, and in the bedroom.
I'm so glad I sent them a text for my complimentary bottle. Text PRIDE to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. Nugenix is the #1 selling testosterone boosting brand at GNC and Walmart. Do it now, and we'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our newest, most powerful fat burner ever. Absolutely free. Text PRIDE to 321-321. That's PRIDE to 321-321.
We got Verizon 5G home internet. It's from Verizon. Safe choice, right?
Well, some things that look great end up being not so great.
Like the time you bought a shrimp roll from a gas station.
Or when you bought that used sports car.
What about when we got Billy that drum set?
The point is, Verizon 5G home internet sounded great,
but turned out to be something else. And we deserve fast, reliable internet. We deserve Xfinity.
It's time for better internet. Switch to Xfinity. Learn more at xfinity.com/Verizon 5G Facts. Now through June 21st, get started with 200 megabit per second Xfinity internet with Wi-Fi equipment included. It's all just $25 a month for 2 years with no annual contract. You can save up to $600 in your first 2 years over Verizon. Go to xfinity.com/Verizon 5G Facts. Call 1-800-XFINITY or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular internet rates apply. Actual speeds vary. Compares Xfinity Connect More to Verizon 5G home plan.
Wow, Total Wine has everything at the lowest price in town. I found this single barrel bourbon, an awesome Cabernet, and Ruthie.
Ruthie?
That's me. Always happy to help. Love what you find at Total Wine & More. Drink responsibly, be 21.
The 2024 X5 has arrived at BMW of Atlantic City. Take advantage of early bird pricing on one of the most highly anticipated vehicles of the year. Right now, lease a new 2024 BMW X5 xDrive 40i for $939 a month for 36 months. Looking to trade? We'll pay top dollar for your vehicle. Visit BMW of Atlantic City, closer than you think. Located in Egg Harbor Township and online at bmwatlanticcity.com. For more details, call us toll-free at 609-316-2393.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash, finishing up the 4 o'clock hour on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget still to come. We'll talk NBA playoffs, Sixers head coaching search with NBA insider Brandon Scoopy Robinson from Valley Sports. But right now, let's check in on the poll question. We've asked you starting in the 2 o'clock hour. We've been getting your feedback throughout the show. DeAndre Hopkins thinks that Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback in the league. Hopkins' top 5 in no particular order was Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. So we asked you at 973 ESPN throughout the day, do you think Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback? Well, so far, 94% say yes, he's absolutely top 5. Only 6% says he's not there yet. Now, the feedback from the people on the text board at 609-403-0973 has been a little more 75-25, all right? And again, the part of the reason why I think this is an interesting conversation is because for someone like me who always thought that Jalen Hurts could be a good to very good NFL quarterback, someone like myself who looked at Hurts and said when he was in college, this guy could play in the NFL. For someone like me, I could be walking in with a built-in bias. I could be walking into my perspective on Hurts through the eyes of somebody who saw him a certain way from college to the NFL, and then that developed over the next couple of years. So for me, I look at Hurts and I say, Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback. I think that the fact that players love to play within the fact that players, are invested in him as a leader and as a player, the fact that players follow him, I believe all of those things factor in. All of those are factors in him being a top 5 quarterback. But I understand that at the same time, most people look at the NFL and say the 3 top quarterbacks in the NFL in any particular order, how you want to order them, are Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. And then the next 3 people are basically in the debate for the next 2 spots. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. Maybe if you're someone who looks like, we had somebody texting earlier, Trevor Lawrence could eventually be top 5. That's always a part of the conversation. So it's a question of how do you view these quarterbacks? Now, Andrew DeCecco was on Football at 4 a little bit earlier. he said that he thinks Hurts is the third best quarterback. He has him ahead of Josh Allen because he thinks Hurts is a better decision maker than Josh Allen is. Maybe. Problem is that Josh Allen became a top 5 quarterback when he got Stephon Diggs. Jalen Hurts became an MVP candidate when he got A.J. Brown. So do we hold that against these guys at times? Do we look at some of these guys and don't appreciate the fact that their teammates don't have to catch the ball, the offensive line has to block for them? Lamar Jackson had a poor offensive line last year, a poor receiving core. Now they improve the offensive line and bring in Odell Beckham Jr. Does that change him? Aaron Rodgers goes to a new situation with the Jets. Does that make him a better quarterback? We'll have more of this debate on the other side. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Thursday.
Here's what you missed on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
Back in the day, I was a casino manager, and Mr. Johnson came in one night. And he was wearing his own football jersey.
Hey, what team
it
was
a
this?
Jet. It was 1999. We just thought it was odd that you were wearing your own jersey.
He really got me out there looking like a lame. Man, please, Dave, stop it.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings at 6 on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Hey, it's Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow, and all summer long, I'll be taking you on a tour of exciting destinations across the Great Garden State, sponsored by the New Jersey Division of Travel and Tourism. Every corner of New Jersey has amazing day trips and staycations for the entire family. From the cities to the shore, mountains to museums, theme parks, ballparks, and amazing downtowns, each week I'll travel to a New Jersey hotspot and talk about the best places to play, eat, shop, and explore. Find your perfect New Jersey getaway with ideas and a free travel guide at visitnj.org.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another language, like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. Go to nomoredraftywindows.com for full offer details. Attention all homeowners. Do you know when to replace your windows? Feeling too hot or cold? It's time to replace. Fog between the glass. Time to replace. Spending too much on expensive energy that literally goes out the window? It's definitely time to replace. If you've put off replacing windows in your home because it's too expensive, here's great news. You can now get a free in-home window consultation and free price quote from Renewal by Andersen, the company with the most 5-star reviews among leading full-service window replacement companies. And right now, you can save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. Just text PLACE to 200-300 for your free consultation on top-quality affordable windows or patio doors for $0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for a year. That's right. You don't pay a dime for an entire year. Plus, save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. But hurry, these big dollar savings end this month. Text PLACE to 200-300 right now. Text the word PLACE to 200-300. Don't wait. Text PLACE to 200-300.
With GMF financing, qualified buyers excludes Corvette.
At Bennett Chevrolet, we're selling new Chevys at real GM supplier employee prices and not 1 cent more. And you keep all the rebates. Not some. I said you keep all the rebates. Up to $8,000 right now during our Memorial Day super sale. Some dealers think they can imitate Bennett by giving you a discount, but they keep part or all the rebates. Bennett Chevy gives you both the real deal GM supplier employee price plus all the rebates. Up to $8,000 during our Memorial Day super sale. And there's available 1.9% financing. Looking for used? Bennett will pay you a minimum $10,000 for any clunker, junker, or whatever you can drag to our lot towards any pre-owned in stock. That's at least $10,000. We pay a lot more for good trades. And unlike other dealers, our sales team is non-commissioned. They're paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. You've got to come experience the difference. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
With Liberty Mutual, you can customize your car insurance to save hundreds. Here's what those savings sound like in dollar bills. Here's what it sounds like in quarters. And here's what that sounds like in cryptocurrency, a thing I totally understand. 1010, I am money, cha-ching, beep, boop, $.
Only pay for what you need at LibertyMutual.com. Savings may vary. Underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Excludes Massachusetts.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
For adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy, now there's Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months, and Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Nothing and me go hand in hand. Nothing on my skin, that's my new place. Nothing is every day.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Nothing is every day.
With Skyrizi, you could achieve 90% clearer skin. Ask your doctor about the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
We are here with Dr. Scott Hernberg, Medical Director and founder of Tomorrow's Wellness Center in Northfield, one of our 97.3 ESPN industry aces. Dr. Hernberg, tell us about Tomorrow's Wellness Center.
We offer the most advanced technology and evidence-based practices in a holistic and integrative manner to provide optimal health and wellness. We strive passionately to make folks look and feel their best.
You treat ED. How common is ED?
Erectile dysfunction is a very common disorder, particularly as men begin to age. Typically, about 40% of men experience some form of erectile dysfunction.
And what does Tomorrow's Wellness Center do for ED?
We use a protocol called the Gainswave therapy. What this therapy involves is low-intensity shock waves that are essentially sound waves. It's natural, essentially painless procedure used to improve the blood flow as well as to improve the sensitivity.
Dr. Scott Hernberg from Tomorrow's Wellness Center in Northfield. You can find out more at tomorrowswellnesscenter.com.
When you hear this,
They've got him again!
and this,
He scored!
and this,
Oh boy, what a move by Embiid!
you think of us. We are sports. 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a town square media station. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill, 5 o'clock hour, driving you home on 97.3 ESPN FM. And don't forget the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle. Still to come in about 25 minutes from now, we'll be talking some NBA with Valley Sports NBA insider Brandon Scoopy Robinson. We've been talking throughout the show today, just to catch everybody up who's just tuning in right now. First of all, thank you for tuning in to 97.3 ESPN. To catch you up, we've been talking about Jalen Hurts. Is he a top 5 quarterback? DeAndre Hopkins says yes. We got one text during the break that says absolutely no. I'll get to that message in just a bit. Phillies, we talked about it earlier in the show. Big win yesterday. Doesn't matter. Well, we got a 4-game series starting tonight in Atlanta. I told you guys earlier, in theory, you should be able to win 2 out of 4 games because you're avoiding one of Atlanta's best pitchers. Their best pitcher, you're seeing him on Sunday. You can get 2 or 3 wins before Sunday even comes around. Something to think about. Did the Trey Turner home run last night propel him to maybe be a better hitter? Because right now the Phillies are going on a 7-game road trip against the NL East. 4 in Atlanta, then a day off Monday, and then 3 in New York against the Mets. We're going to learn a lot about the Phillies coming up. But that's on the docket today. Also, Sixers head coaching situation. We had Keith Pompey on for the Philadelphia Inquirer in the 3 o'clock hour. Keith Pompey said to us he thinks Nick Nurse should be the guy. Well, our poll question yesterday, 54% of you said the Sixers should hire Nick Nurse ASAP because he's in demand for the Bucks and Suns job as well. Now, according to reports, the Sixers have so far interviewed Nick Nurse, Frank Vogel, Mike Budenholzer. is there a guy you would rather have than Nick Nurse of the people who have been mentioned? I know a lot of people we talked about yesterday talked about Jay Wright. Jay Wright's not candidate. People talked about Sam Cassell. Well, is anyone concerned that Cassell is not a candidate for any other job in the market? Again, something to think about. We'll ask Brandon Scoopy Robinson his thoughts. We played you the audio from Brian Windhorst in the last hour. He thinks the Sixers are the best head coaching job because of their ownership situation. I know for some people out there, they're going to say, come on, Josh Harris is not a great owner. Oh, he's not a great owner compared to Jeff Lurie. Not a great owner compared to John Middleton. Josh Harris is a businessman. He's not as passionately invested in his team as the other owners are in the city. So people look at him and say, yeah, you bought Washington and you bought the Devils and you own the team in England, the soccer team. You're not even invested in this team. Why would an NBA owner want to come here? And the reason Windhorst gave in the last hour was because there's stability here compared to the directionless Raptors ownership, compared to the ownership changes going on in Phoenix and Milwaukee. So something to think about. We'll dig deeper into that throughout the hour. As always, here's the deal. Just like yesterday, you chime in at 609-403-0973. Leave your name when you text in, and you qualify for a chance to win tickets to go see Shane Gillis's comedy show at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. So again, 609-403-0973. Whereas promised, we got a text in during the break. Now, the person didn't leave their name, and maybe they didn't leave their name because maybe they realized that their position was a little over the top. But Jalen Hurts, is he a top 5 quarterback? DeAndre Hopkins has him in his 5. Well, this anonymous texter chimed in and said top 5, no. And no is in all caps, just N-O, boom. The texter goes on to say, and Hopkins not having Burrow in his top 5 invalidates his opinion. Now, it's interesting because I mentioned earlier in the show that I would have Burrow in my top 5. So does Hopkins not having Burrow in his 5 make the list invalid? I don't think it does, because Hopkins obviously values quarterbacks differently than this anonymous texter does, or I do. I think Burrow's a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. But for me, I look at Burrow differently than Hopkins does. When Hopkins was talking about these quarterbacks, he mentioned how, Josh Allen, he's the new Andrew Luck. And he mentioned about Jalen Hurts. He's like, he's a Houston kid. I watched him grow up and become this great quarterback. And I love who he is as a person and his leadership and his personality. When he was asked about, who else he liked, he didn't even name Justin Herbert outright. He just said, I like that guy who plays for the Chargers, right? And then he says Patrick Mahomes. He's the third guy he mentioned. He all goes out saying Patrick Mahomes. And then he says, I love Lamar. Okay. So from Hopkins, he's not looking at quarterback as championships, winning, moxie. He's looking at it as, I like how this guy's personality is. I like his style of play. I like his arm strength. So for him, he doesn't value the Burrow intangibles. He values the Jalen Hurts intangibles, but he doesn't value the Burrow intangibles. But I don't think that makes his list invalid. I think that's where the anonymous texter is wrong, because you can't just say somebody's opinion is invalid just because it doesn't have someone who you think should be on the list. Because what you're basically saying is that you're bringing and I hate even saying it this way, you're bringing that toxic political concept into sports debate. We have this conversation about sports, And it's not to be condescending. Listen, I don't know how many times Billy Schweim in the locker room on weekends on 97.3 ESPN, Saturdays and Sundays at 10 a.m., how many times him and I have vehemently disagreed about something, yelling at each other back and forth, but we never insult each other. We never say, your opinion's invalid or your perspective is false, or we're having a sports debate. So I'm not going to sit here and buy this. His opinion is invalid and a Burrow in there, because he is grading the quarterbacks differently. And the other problem with this anonymous texter was they didn't tell me who their top 5 is. If you don't have Hurts in your top 5 and you tell me he's not a top 5 quarterback, then who's your 5? That's the problem. Don't come at me and say he's not in the top 5 and then tell me just no. We had people text in earlier in the show who, those who said that Hurts wasn't a top 5 quarterback, they went and gave their 5. Or they explained why Hurts wasn't a top 5 quarterback earlier in the show. And just because I might not have agreed with some of those points doesn't mean that they didn't make a good point. Like, we had somebody text in, what was it? It says 219 today. And they said Hurts had a top 5 season last year, but he has to have it again this year for us to anoint him as a great quarterback. That's an excellent point. Now, that's not how I look at Jalen Hurts, but I think it's a very well articulated point. And that person was anonymous as well. So, being an anonymous texter doesn't mean you're sending a good or bad text into the show at 609-403-0973. What it does mean is you don't qualify for the Shane Gillis tickets giveaway. That's what it means. Matt from Cape May, he followed the instructions. He left his name. He's qualified for the tickets. Also, the text board at 609-403-0973 on the Sixers head coaching front. Somebody just texted in, I want JJ Redick to be the head coach. Well, JJ Redick, there's no reports of him interviewing for the job. There's no reports of him being a candidate for the job. The only job that he has been referenced to at all is the Toronto Raptors job. So you can want JJ Redick. Larry Brown can want Jay Wright, but until those guys actually interview for the job or even mentioned by, the big names, Woj, Shams, Windhorst, Zach Lowe, Jake Fisher, Keith Pompey, Brandon Scoopy Robinson will join us coming up in about 12 minutes. Unless those guys are reporting it, I'm not giving any credibility that JJ Redick should be head coach. That's called, I like video games. And in video games, I do this philosophy. All right? Look, you can't just throw a name out there. It's like, I used to work in car sales, right? And when I was in car sales, somebody would come to the lot and they would be driving a certain type of car. And you would get into a conversation with them about, hey, what are you looking for? What are you interested in? All right, well, let's walk the lot and let me show you what we got in terms of what you're looking for. And then you'd have that person, and I was in this situation a couple times where they wanted a specific vehicle, okay? But they didn't like the color. And so you would tell them, well, we don't have that color in stock right now. Is there another color that you would like? And the person would say, no, I only want, for example, let's say it's blue, right? Or let's say it's black. I only want this color of a car or not at all. And you would tell them, well, we can place an order for you for that car if you're really intent on that vehicle. And that person would just get really annoyed with you because you're kind of being obvious. You're like, look, I don't have the car on the lot right now. It's not available. I don't have it. Well, I mean, I can try to get it for you. And then we get so annoyed. And that's kind of how I feel about the people, the texter who just texted in, I want JJ Redick, or Larry Brown saying Jay Wright. I just feel like it's like, you're the kind of person who just doesn't like the choices, and instead of making the best of a situation, you're going out of your way to, frankly, just be a jerk a little bit. Like, why is it so important to you to come up with a name who's not a candidate for a job? And that's what I mean by the car situation. You go to somebody and you say, guess what? I can get you the car you want, but we don't have that color right now. And them getting annoyed with you. That's why I feel about the person who texted in JJ Redick. First of all, we have no idea if JJ Redick can coach a team. Does JJ Redick have any coaching experience at all? Let me double check. The last time I looked up his bio, right? As far as I know, Redick has never coached anything at the professional level in his life. Let's check up. Okay, so we got a JJ Redick biography. JJ Redick is an veteran NBA player, podcast host, and co-founder of 342 Productions. After 15 years in the NBA, JJ Redick announced his retirement. All right, I'm still not seeing anything about coaching here. Talks about his YouTube following, his podcast, him working on ESPN television. He lives in Brooklyn, New York with his wife and kids. I see nothing about his coaching. So why on earth would you want to hire somebody who has zero experience at the job that you want to hire them for? Someone explain that to me. Someone explain to me why, if you own a business, okay, let's say you own a radio station. Would you want to hire someone who's never been on the radio before to talk on the radio? Of course not. If you own a butcher shop, would you hire someone who's never cut meat before ever in their life to be your full-time meat cutter? No. If you worked at a car dealership, would you hire someone to be the general sales manager who has never sold a car before? No. I can go on the examples. So why on earth would anybody want JJ Redick to be the head coach when, one, he's not even a candidate for the job, and two, he has no coaching experience? I'm just wondering. Now, Andrew Summers' point followed up and say it's just for conversation. Well, if it's for conversation, you got to give me a reason why, Andrew Summers' point. And by the way, you said I didn't know who the Sixers were talking to. Well, Andrew Summers' point, I would recommend that, maybe you read 973ESPN.com or jump on the 973 ESPN mobile app or go on the national ESPN website or go on the Athletic. The reports are everywhere. So so maybe Andrew Summers, if there are other people like Andrew Summers' point, I will repeat the list for everyone out there. The report came out last week that the Sixers candidates for the job are Mike Budenholzer, Mike D'Antoni, Monty Williams, Nick Nurse, Frank Vogel, Sam Cassell. That's been reported by multiple people, from Woj to Shams to everybody. The Sixers have already interviewed, according to follow-up reports, Budenholzer, Vogel, and Nurse. All right? So if you are like Andrew and Summers' point and you did not know that information, I apologize that I presumed that you knew that information. All right? But again, just saying somebody's name without any prerequisite is not recommended, especially in this business. Jeff and EHT chimes in on the text board about the top 5 quarterback conversation. He says, my top 5 and my criteria is what quarterbacks I would take from my franchise for the next 10 years. He says his number 1 is Mahomes, 2 Burrow, number 3 Allen, 4 Herbert, 5 Hurts, 6 Lamar, 7 Trevor Lawrence. He says, and that's the 7 I would have. After that, I got to give the list a little more thought. That's from Jeff and EHT. Jeff, I like the fact that you spelled out the list for me, but you also gave me the criteria. So that's an impressive job by you. You have a future as a writer right there because you just gave me some bullet points to work with. So, but you have Hurts at 5. Now, the Checo last hour from InsideTheBirds.com on Football at 4, he had Jalen Hurts at 3. You have him at 5. That's an interesting list. I would be curious to know, Jeff and EHC, if you get a chance to follow up on the text, what your reasoning for why you have Trevor Lawrence ahead of Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford. I'm probably missing somebody off the top of my head. Why do you have ahead of Deshaun Watson? Not saying your list is bad, Jeff. I just think it's interesting that you went right to Lawrence. Now, your criteria is what quarterback would you start your franchise with? That is a explicit prerequisite. And I think that's obviously a different prerequisite than DeAndre Hopkins, which is basically who does he want to play with? Jeff at EHT is saying, if I'm starting my franchise to win a championship, and DeAndre Hopkins is saying, I want to play with this guy. So that is a very different criteria, but I do appreciate the breakdown by Jeff and EHT. All right, we'll get to more of your texts a little bit later in the hour. Keep them coming in, 609-403-0973. Your DMs in the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. But coming up next, we'll talk with the one and only NBA insider, Brandon Scoopy Robinson from Bally Sports. He joins me next here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on a Thursday afternoon.
We have the perfect remedy for sitting in traffic. The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Save thousands at Matt Blatt Kia. Get out of your old trade today, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Go to mattblattkianj.com for more details. That's mattblattkianj.com.
It's gotta be a
Matt Blatt Kia.
Leroy 71's back up. What's your 20? Over.
Olivia needs more drivers for her trucking company to go the extra mile.
3 more stops to make.
She wants to hitch a team to drive business forward.
Lots of double nickels on the 169. You know what I'm over? This driver shortage.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
I can't wait for what's next. Even with higher stroke risk due to atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Eliquis, the Pixaban tablets, reduces stroke risk. It's the #1 cardiologist prescribed blood thinner.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without talking to your doctor, as this may increase your risk of stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and, in rare cases, fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or have antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or unusual bruising, or if you have tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. It may increase your bleeding risk if you take medicines such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
These are emails filling your employees' inboxes, downloads beaming from device to device, and any one of them could be a cyber attack. Is it possible to keep your small business safe? It is with Comcast Business Security Edge. It helps keep your connected devices protected, and you can monitor threat activity in real time. So this security threat is the last thing you need to worry about. With Comcast Business, advanced security isn't just possible, it's happening.
Get started with fast speeds and advanced security for $39 a month for 12 months with no annual contract. Plus, ask how to get up to a $500 prepaid card with a qualifying bundle. Call or go online today to learn more. Offer ends 6/21/2023. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and automatic payments. New 50 megabits per second internet and security edge customers only. Equipment, taxes, and other fees extra and subject to change. After promo, regular rates apply.
Wow, Total Wine has everything at the lowest price in town. I found this single barrel bourbon, an awesome Cabernet, and Ruthie.
Ruthie?
That's me. Always happy to help. Love what you find at Total Wine and More. Drink responsibly, be 21.
Powered by the all-new BetParks New Jersey Casino and Sportsbook app. BetParks.com. This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Good Thursday morning. I'm Josh Hennig with your South Jersey Sports Center. The Phillies won in dramatic fashion on Wednesday afternoon thanks to a big home run by Trey Turner and a walk-off RBI by Alec Bohm in the 6-5 victory. The Phillies will now travel to Atlanta for a 4-game series that begins tonight, with Aaron Nola scheduled to start first pitch at 7:20. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport confirmed reports that former first-round pick DJ Fluker worked out for the Eagles this week. Fluker has started games at tackle and guard for the Chargers, Giants, Seahawks, and Ravens over the course of 8 seasons. Get more Eagles, Phillies, Sixers, and Flyers on our app. Your forecast is next.
An online housing resource is now available for NJ residents to assist in preventing eviction. Go to housinghelpnj.org or call 888-691-3002 to be connected to a certified housing counselor for free housing counseling services and information.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Bottom line for the big Memorial Day weekend, rain chances limited, cloud cover abundant, and temperatures will transition from springy 70s to summer-like 80s by Monday. Clear and chilly tonight, low 48. Tomorrow, a nice day, mostly sunny and 69. Sun and clouds, probably dry on Saturday, high of 70. Best chance of a shower will be Sunday, mostly cloudy and 67. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
Hi, honey. Happy first day back at work. Can't wait to see you tonight. We are so proud of you. Daddy, love you.
There are no reasons to start recovery. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, we are here to help. Call us. Our trained counselors are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to help. Your recovery is within reach. Call 844-REACH-NJ to learn about medication that can support your recovery. A message from the New Jersey Department of Human Services.
Now, back to more Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's sports leader.
5:27 here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill on a Thursday edition on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get to more of your text on, is Jalen Hurts top 5 quarterback? I see Jeff from Summers Point chiming in on that. Andrew in Summers Point. Good dialogue with him back and forth. You know, he's talking about the Sixers head coaching situation. Dive deeper into the NBA playoffs, Sixers head coaching search, and more. Joining us on the phone is NBA insider Brandon Scoop B Robinson. You can follow him on Twitter at Scoop B. Check out the full Scoop B experience on Instagram, and it gets you catch his coverage with Valley Sports. My friend, welcome back to the show. How you doing today?
Brother, I'm doing good. You're catching me on a late lunch break, so I'm eating nuggets from Chick-fil-A while I'm doing this interview with you. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you jumping on. I can't say anything negative about Chick-fil-A, so I think you made a good choice there.
I think you're right, and also, I do think Jalen Hurts is the top 5 quarterback.
There you go. The whole idea was, I don't know if you saw it, but DeAndre Hopkins was on the I Am Athlete podcast, and he was asked who are the 5 quarterbacks he wants thrown to him, and Jalen Hurts was one of the 5. So, the question, I was bringing to the audience the idea of, this is a guy who never played with Jalen, who says, I want to play with him. So maybe let's start with that. When you hear a player say they want to play with somebody, and those two have actually never played together, What does that say to you as somebody who covers a sport like the NBA?
That they have mutual friends. They play the AAU, and they want to figure it out.
Interesting. I want to figure it out. And I like that part is interesting. It's almost like the let's see what happens kind of thing. Speaking of let's see what happens, Sixers head coaching situation, it's a hotly debated topic in this area, my friend. You know, I had people texting in yesterday, they want Frank Vogel, other people saying they want Monty Williams, other people saying, I mean, we ran a poll yesterday, 54% said hire Nick Nurse. So, for you, how do you assess this Sixers head coaching search?
I think I assess it by they want a hot name, and I also assess it from a perspective of they want to make Joel Embiid happy more so than James Harden.
Do you think that the priority is to not just get a big name, but also maybe change the culture of the team in the post Doc Rivers environment?
I don't think the culture should be changed. I think the culture was good. They just couldn't get over a hump. I'm of the philosophy that Doc shouldn't have been fired. But I also know that there's some other powers that be that control that narrative. I also think that if you get rid of Doc, I think you should consider somebody in his coaching staff as a replacement. I don't think Sam Cassell gets enough credit.
I was asking the question earlier, and maybe you could be more, give more light to it. But as far as I know, Sam Cassell is really only a candidate for the Sixers job and maybe one other. Whereas I see guys like, Lee and Atkinson's name for tons of jobs. Why is Cassell not getting more consideration around the league?
Because I think he like other guys that are former players are looked at as players' homeboys rather than real coaching candidates. I don't have a problem with this person. I'm using it as an example, but JJ Redick interviews for a coaching position having no head coaching experience. And so you dig deep into why that's a thing. And a lot of it has to do with connectivity to players. He's not that far removed from playing. And so he has a lot of peers that are still in the league. Well, Sam Cassell, as an assistant coach, has been around the block with Doc in Boston, with the Clippers, and now with Philadelphia. And, was part of, James Harden and Joel Embiid's development as a tandem over the last year and a half, but doesn't get any serious considerations. A former Houston Rocket champion, Ime Udoka is hired in Philly and Sam Cassell is not. In Philly, they have a vantage point of who he is and what he is and why. And I just think there should be more consideration. And Ty Lue was in a very similar category before he ultimately became a head coach. It took David Blatt, who people thought the world of, to get fired, and LeBron, wanting that Ty Lue to be the coach in order for Lue to get his big break. And it's kind of just, if the point guard is the extension of the coach on the floor, you would imagine that why not a Sam Cassell, who's won multiple championships? And, you look at Steve Nash, who had no coaching experience, get the head coaching position in Brooklyn. Relationships are what carried him. And I just hope that the same could eventually happen for Sam. It doesn't seemingly look as though that's going to be the case in the city of brotherly love.
When I had Keith Pompey earlier on the show, he thinks that he would pick Nick Nurse if the Sixers asked him who should be the head coach. What do you think of Nick Nurse as a coaching candidate?
I think he's a great coach. I think he's somebody that, like Frank Vogel and like Eric Spoelstra with the Miami Heat, just outworked everybody and wasn't a sexy name. in the beginning of his coaching career. And I mean, I like him in Philly. I think he checks those boxes. I don't have a bad thing to say about him. I think he'd fit. And Keith Allied has been very spot on in a lot of things that he's been reporting on the Philly front. So I would co-sign what Keith says. But I also think that moving forward, there are so many rich names that are out there that are not the recycled candidates. You made mention of Kenny Atkinson, who, I've gotten to know over the years, starting during his time in Brooklyn and then ultimately, with the Warriors and spending time with him off the clock in San Francisco. And, he turned down that position with the Charlotte Hornets in order to stay in Golden State. I think he's another example of somebody who, exceeded a lot of expectations. And I actually think that the Nets and their rebuild are at a similar place now where they were when Atkinson was, there in Brooklyn. I just think there are a lot of guys who grind out, make things happen that, don't get the name or get the chance to be an assistant coach on a Warriors team like Atkinson ultimately did. But I think Nick Nurse definitely exemplifies somebody who's done a good job coaching, but there are other candidates out there who do get overlooked.
The other guy I want to ask you about is Frank Vogel. He's a popular name in this area because he's a Wildwood High School graduate. He's a well-known guy in the area. He's someone who had a cup of coffee coaching as an assistant before he went to Indiana. What is your take on him as a head coaching candidate? Because now you mentioned people who have had jobs already. He's already had 3 jobs before this cycle began.
Well, Frank and I have the same agent. And it's funny because Frank's agency also represents Doc Rivers. And it's just interesting how those wheels turn there. I say that to say that Frank exceeded a lot of expectations in Los Angeles. And I think that's the reason why his name is being brought up. You win a championship, you definitely you definitely raise your profile when that happens, especially coaching alongside one LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and others. That bubble championship had its twists and turns. But I do think that Frank Vogel, like Eric Spoelstra, and even Taylor Jenkins in Memphis are 3 guys that were not Phil Jackson, Pat Riley, Greg Popovich, Doc Rivers, and they benefited from strong defense and names, high profile names. I think for Frank Vogel, I think he has this point in his life, he has the luxury of being picky with where he wants to go. Like, I know there were a lot of teams that were interested in him last offseason, and he kind of just took his time. I don't think he should be in a rush. I also think that if he decides not to go back into coaching, I definitely think TV is in his future. He has the personality to do so, and the connectivity to today's player. A quick story. Phil Handy, who is an assistant with the Lakers, sat down with me last summer, and he talked about his interview process with Vogel and how there was no prior relationship with Vogel. And, he came in his office and he had on a Gucci belt, Gucci loafers and shorts. And he just was cool. It was nothing like you would assume he'd be. He just was this down to earth guy that really loved basketball and really poured into his players and really just wanted to get a good product out. And, they got that product out and winning, the NBA finals in the bubble. And, I look at Vogel and I look at his track record. I mean, this was a Paul George team that he led that was going toe to toe against LeBron's and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh's Miami Heat. They just couldn't get past it. I think that even his level of productivity and connectivity and dialed inness, if you will, might be even more lauded had they gone a little further last decade in the finals or deeper in the playoffs. And I mean, I just think he's a decent coach, but I just think in today's coaching search, it's less about name and more connectivity to today's player.
Talk with NBA insider Brandon Scoop B Robinson from Bally Sports. You can follow him on Twitter at Scoop B and also on Instagram at Scoop B for all your NBA coverage and more. Joining us here, Josh Hennig playing for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. The aforementioned, we mentioned Keith Pompey was on the show earlier today. I want to ask you, he, among others, are reporting about James Harden potentially going to Houston. A lot of Sixer fans, they're not happy with James Harden after that series. What is your position on Harden and his future? Because he's not getting any younger. I understand Harden says, I want to maximize my dollar before my career is done. So I totally understand why he's opting out of that player option.
I think it's more to it than just flexibility. From folks that I've spoken with close to James himself, and just his peers, I think James enjoys being in control of his bottom line. And I think that Philly had a short shelf life once Doc Rivers was fired. And I also think that Daryl Morey is in a situation where ownership is asking more questions. And I think Daryl Morey is in a position where even though Harden is his guy, Morey still has to give an account for who he is, what he's done, and why he's here. And I think Houston quietly is building something that is younger, leaner, and more fits towards Harden's play style. But the crazy thing about it is Harden can fit in just about any system. That's what makes he and LeBron so similar in that regard. You could just plug those two guys in and they are effective at their point forward, point guard, whatever you want to call it, position. Houston is familiar to him for obvious reasons, having played there. Also, Ime being in Houston, they have a relationship from their time in Brooklyn as assistant coach and player. But James has restaurants. I ate there. Their Brussels sprouts pretty daggone good. He's promoting a wine and more. But I think from a play perspective, I think Udoka system at this point, knowing what they have on the floor fits. I think if Harden was to come back to Houston, I think it would be a very similar situation as LeBron finding his way back to Cleveland for the second time around. Or Wade, less Wade because Wade was towards the end. But I just think that when James Harden left, he left because Stephen Silas was an unproven head coach at that time, and he knew where Houston was going. I think this time around, the owner is sold on creating a product that the fans can lean on. And you don't just bring in Ime Udoka for your health. You obviously have a plan. And I would imagine that plan, if Harden does come back to Houston, is deeper than just bringing him in and putting him around young guys. Because I think when you bring a star, that magnet attracts other stars.
Couple more for Brandon Scoop B Robinson, NBA insider with Bally Sports, before we let him go. Obviously, I will never ask you to speak for Kyrie Irving. He made it very clear that he can speak for himself on his Instagram Live. But I will ask you this. Kendrick Perkins brought up the idea of Kyrie Irving coming to Philadelphia, replacing James Harden. I know there's a lot of speculation out there about him going to LA, rejoining LeBron. Let me ask you this question. I don't want you to speak for Kyrie. I want you to tell me who you think is the best destination if you were making the decision for Kyrie.
The Phoenix Suns.
Why?
Well, number one, Kyrie did say he doesn't want other people to speak for everybody, or he doesn't want other people to speak for him. And he said 98 to 99% of people can't speak. You notice he didn't say 100. You notice my track record, it speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't apply for me. I say that to say this. I do think that when it comes to Phoenix, one of the reasons why it does fit is because of a lot of the drama that was Brooklyn, that was less about basketball, more about New York. that won't be an issue in Phoenix if he were to decide to go there. I also think that anytime you have a new owner who comes in, he cleans house, and he wants to create something in his own image. You saw him do that with Monty Williams and his departure. And you also see it with bringing in Kevin. And I'll be honest with you, Phoenix was trying to bring both Kai and Kevin together in separate trades at the trade deadline. If you go back to my tweets, I said that the two destinations for Kyrie that will likely happen are the Dallas Mavericks and the Phoenix Suns. He went to Dallas at the trade deadline. Phoenix, in order for that to happen, they'd have to include some sort of package and work with the Dallas Mavericks in which you complete a sign and trade for Kyrie and you ship DeAndre Ayton to Dallas. It solves the problem that Dallas had in lacking a big man or someone of size, and it solves the point guard problem. Or they'd have to figure out what they were going to do with Chris Paul, keep him, trade him, whatever. But I do think that adds scoring firepower for that team, and I think they'd be successful. They'd have to add other pieces, but I do think that the Phoenix Suns do make the most sense. Los Angeles Lakers, to me, from folks that I speak with, there's a belief that Kyrie in LA would be like Brooklyn all over again. As far as the Philadelphia 76ers go, it makes some sense. I know that they were on a list of teams that Kyrie and his agent requested for possible trade options. He's been to two of those requested teams. But I do know that Kai is not in a rush, as he stated then. And in conversations that I've had privately with folks, the day that the Dallas Mavericks or the day that free agency opens, Kai's not pressed to sign that day. And that they're going to give the Mavericks their just due to get their roster in order before making a decision. That was told to me.
Yeah, so in other words, Kyrie Irving is playing the long game and not the short game, which is always a good thing to do. Before I let you go, I'm running out of real estate, but who do you think wins tonight, Celtics or Heat?
I'd like to see the Celtics win. It'll be a boring Memorial Day weekend without basketball. So I'd like to see the Celtics win it and keep this thing going. But the Miami Heat have played bar none great basketball, and I'm glad to see their success nonetheless. And we'll see what happens. But I'd like to see the Boston Celtics win it tonight.
No offense, my friend, but the only person who says a potential boring Labor Day weekend without basketball is someone who's never lived in South Jersey before. Okay, it's.
Well, listen, I've visited and we've had dinner there, so I know there's something to always do. It's my birthday weekend, so I'm not gonna be bored, but I get your sentiment.
I got you. Well, listen, folks, give him a follow on Twitter, Scoop B, for all your NBA insights and more. Also on Instagram at Scoop B, Bally Sports NBA Insider, and friend of mine, Brandon Scoop B Robinson. Happy birthday early. I appreciate you jumping on. Take care of yourself, my friend.
My brother, thank you for the opportunity to be myself. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got him beat by a few days. It was my birthday last week. It's his birthday this weekend. But we're all in the month of May here. We got going on here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you. We'll wrap up the show coming up on the other side. Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City.
There's only one place for live sports and sports talk in South Jersey. Oh, yeah! Your sports station is 97.3 ESPN.
Don't miss Andrew Schultz live at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City, Saturday, July 29th. Tickets on sale now at theoceanac.com.
The Dell Technologies Summer Sale event starts now with limited quantity deals on select performance PCs with Windows 11 Pro. Save on select Vostro laptops with built-in security features and select Latitude laptops with enhanced privacy, collaboration, and connectivity. Save on essential accessories, plus free shipping and special financing with Dell Business Credit. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL. Offered to business customers by WebBank, who determines qualifications for and terms of credit. credit.
A lot of new enrollments, huh? Braylon, Braden.
Monique's daycare is crawling with new arrivals.
Hey, sweetie, are you hungry?
She needs more early childhood educators.
Did your sock slip off again?
And a nap.
Hey there, little guy. Okay. Shh. Whoa.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
With GMF financing, qualified buyers excludes Corvette.
At Bennett Chevrolet, we're selling new Chevys at real GM supplier employee prices and not 1 cent more. And you keep all the rebates. Not some. I said you keep all the rebates. Up to $8,000 right now during our Memorial Day super sale. Some dealers think they can imitate Bennett by giving you a discount, but they keep part or all the rebates. Bennett Chevy gives you both the real deal GM supplier employee price plus all the rebates. Up to $8,000 during our Memorial Day super sale. And there's available 1.9% financing. Looking for used? Bennett will pay you a minimum $10,000 for any clunker, junker, or whatever you can drag to our lot towards any pre-owned in stock. That's at least $10,000. We pay a lot more for good trades. And unlike other dealers, our sales team is non-commissioned. They're paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. You've got to come experience the difference. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Paid for by Christian Care Ministry.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge. But it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 855-51-BIBLE. That's 855-51-BIBLE. 855-51-BIBLE.
With summer savings at the Home Depot, we'll get your kitchen clicking. With top brand appliances, like a new GE refrigerator with internal water dispenser for a crisp, cool glass of water every time. Or a GE oven with built-in air fryer for healthier, crispier options with no preheating. Plus, with convenient shopping in-store and online at the Home Depot, your innovative new appliances are just a click away too. Save up to 30% on select appliances plus $300 off select refrigerators at the Home Depot. Pricing valid May 18th through June 7th, 2023. U.S. only. See store or online for details.
Time to tee it up at the 40th Annual Ranch Hope Wranglers Golf Tournament, Friday, June 2nd at Centerton Golf Club, presented by Woodruff Energy. Proceeds will benefit Ranch Hope's youth activities. Ranch Hope is entering its 59th year, serving the youth and families of New Jersey. Their tournament is made possible by Comtech Systems, PSEG Nuclear, Mannington Flooring, Atlantic City Electric, First National Bank of Elmer, SJ Water Conditioning, Heritage Dairy Stores, RCL Solar, Foster Carney Foundation, and Pennsville Bank. Let's tee it up for Ranch Hope. Sponsor and player registrations at ranchhope.org.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another language, like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Go to babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
Matt Platt Nissan is now open on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township, next to Home Depot. Get out of that old car, truck, or SUV and into a brand new Nissan. The all-new Matt Platt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township, or visit us online, mattplattnissan.com.
Now, back to the Sports Bash. SPN.
All right, wrapping up the show. What a busy show it was. Lots of text messages throughout the show. I'll contact the winners of the Shane Gillis Comedy Show tickets after the show. Of course, today was the final day. We will have news about the next giveaway tomorrow on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESP. Because tomorrow's also Happy Hour Friday. Get a little twisted for Happy Hour Friday, so make sure you stay tuned in for that. We'll have a little fun with that tomorrow. Before we get out of here, a couple texts to get into here. Let's see here. Jeff in Summers Point. There it is. His top 5 quarterbacks: Jalen Hurts number 1, Pat Mahomes number 2, Josh Allen 3, Aaron Rodgers 4, Geno Smith 5. Jeff, I'm okay with most of that list, but Geno at 5? Come on. Either you're just trolling me or you're just, maybe are you a WVU alum? Is that what it is? One more message squeezed in here. Another text says 1 and 2 is either Burrows and Mahomes in no order. For me, it's Josh Allen 3, Jalen Hurts 4, Lamar Jackson 5. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be disappointed in New York, though. Because he'll handily take Green Bay to a winning record last year with a prime. Interesting take. I don't know if Rodgers is at all. I tend to think that last year he was a byproduct of a team that was not very good. Just my personal. But we'll see what happens in New York. Good text. I'm all in. It's like good. Josh Hennig, best sports fast next on 973 ESPN.
The NBA playoffs continue on ESPN Radio.
Tatum gives the Celtics their largest lead.
Facing elimination, the Celtics win game 4. Their first playoff loss in Miami this postseason. Now the series returns to Boston, where the Celtics face another must-win. Will they survive? Game 5 of the Celtics, presented by Indeed. Which begins tonight at 8 Eastern. Listen to the Eastern Conference Finals exclusively on 97.3 ESPN.
We're here with Dr. Scott Hernberg.